Imagine Naruto, but make him a regal, muscle-bound monster who reincarnates as Dabura Karaba from Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo. He flashes sunburst, erases armies with a domain, tells Pain your piece is trash, then sits on the Hokage throne owning 5 nations. This overpowered king doesn't play, he rules.
The first kunai hit the wall 3 inches from his ear, and the second one buried itself in the fence post behind him, and the third one, a rusted thing with tape around the grip, was already spinning toward his throat when something inside Naruto Uzumaki woke up. 7 years old, barefoot, a ratty white t-shirt, 2 sizes too big hanging off his shoulders. He stood at the mouth of the alley behind the ramen stand with his back against damp brick, and in front of him 12 figures filled the narrow space. 4 off-duty chunin still smelling like sake, and 8 civilians holding whatever sharp things they'd grabbed from kitchen drawers and toolboxes on the way here. The chunin had actual kunai. The civilians had cleavers, box cutters, a rusted garden hoe. One of them, a heavy man with flour dusting his apron, held a broken bottle by its neck. "Demon brat," the man at the front said. He was the one who'd thrown first. His hand was already reaching back into his pouch for a fresh blade. "You think you get to just walk around like people? Tonight we fix what the 4th started." Naruto had heard those words before. Every October, sometimes in between. He knew what they meant. He knew the shape of what came after. The running, the hiding, the hoping an Ambu patrol would show up before things got too bad. But tonight his eyes burned. Golden light, warm, layered, alive, spilled out from his irises and painted the alley walls in amber. The mob hesitated, just for a heartbeat. Then the chunin at the front barked now, and every arm in that crowd pulled back and threw. Kunai, knives, glass shards, a cleaver spinning end over end. 16 projectiles filled the air between them and a 7-year-old boy. Naruto moved. He did something far past running, past flickering, past anything the shinobi world had a name for. One instant he stood with his back against brick. The next instant the alley was empty where he'd been. The projectiles sailed through open air and clattered against the wall behind where his body should have been. And the mob felt wind on the backs of their necks, like something enormous had just passed behind them at a speed that turned oxygen into a whisper. Every single one of them spun around. Naruto stood at the other end of the alley, behind all of them. He held every kunai in his left hand, fanned out between his fingers like a deck of cards, and the civilian weapons were stacked in a tidy pile at his feet. The golden glow in his eyes faded down to a soft ember, and his expression hadn't changed from that same flat, careful look he always wore. He set the kunai down on a crate, straightened up, bowed, a full, formal bow, head dipping below his shoulders, one hand folded over the other. "Please excuse me, I must be heading home." And then he was gone. A streak of gold between the rooftops there and then vanished, leaving 12 people standing in an alley full of their own weapons, and the absolute inability to explain what they had just seen. The chunin at the front dropped to his knees. His hands were shaking. "What?" he said to the empty air. "Was that?" News traveled the way it always does in a shinobi village, through the walls, through the bars, through the mission desk where people whispered over their assignment scrolls. Within a week, every jonin in Konoha had heard some version of the story. A 7-year-old had moved faster than 4 trained chunin could track, had collected weapons out of the air like picking fruit from a branch, had spoken like an adult and bowed like a nobleman, and then vanished into the night without a scratch. The Hokage heard, of course. The old man sat in his office with his pipe between his teeth and a fresh report from Ambu Root on his desk. One he immediately filed in the sealed drawer and thought about what it meant that Minato's son was something beyond anything Konoha's current roster could produce. He did nothing. He watched. He waited. And Naruto trained. Those next 5 years unfolded in the training grounds behind the Hokage monument, in the forests east of the village where nobody went, on rooftops at 3 in the morning when the rest of Konoha slept. Something lived inside him. Memories that belonged to someone else. A warrior from a place that operated on rules this world had never heard of. Energy that moved through his body alongside chakra but separate from it. Denser, wilder, more refined. The memories came in flashes at first. A sun-scorched battlefield, a tribe of fighters with bodies like iron, a technique that turned light itself into a weapon. Dabura Karaba. The name surfaced like a rock breaking through river water. The strongest of the Descente, the man who had fought the king of curses and walked away standing. Naruto sat with those memories the way a monk sits with scripture. He absorbed them. He practiced. He understood, piece by piece, what his body could do and what his soul already knew. Cursed energy flooded his system with the density of an ocean compressed into a river channel. His physical frame responded, bones thickening, muscle laying itself down in cords that grew denser every month. By 9, he was taller than most academy students 2 years above him. By 11, he cleared 5.5 feet and could crack stone with a casual grip. By 12, the year he graduated from the academy, Naruto Uzumaki stood 6 feet and 4 inches tall, 230 pounds of layered muscle, wrapped in a frame so broad that he had to turn sideways through standard doorways, with hands big enough to palm a human skull, and shoulders that blocked out the sun when he stood in front of you. He kept his hair short, wore simple clothes, a high-collared black shirt, fitted pants, sandals a size too large because his feet kept growing. His face had lost every trace of baby fat and settled into something angular and regal, with those 3 whisker marks on each cheek sitting like war paint across features that looked 25 on a 12-year-old frame. At the academy, nobody knew what to do with him. Iruka-sensei watched him during sparring sessions and felt his stomach knot. The boy moved through forms he'd never taught, or rather, moved through everything Iruka had taught, with a fluidity that made the standard kata look like children's scribbles compared to calligraphy. He'd bow to his sparring partner, say, "Please take care of me," and then end the fight in a single motion that left his opponent sitting on the mat blinking, unsure of what had happened. He graduated top of his class without ever raising his voice, without ever bragging, without ever once explaining how he could do the things he did. And then they put him on a team. Sakura Haruno had certain expectations about the day she'd meet her Genin squad. She expected Sasuke, the love of her young life, to be the most impressive person in the room. She expected the third member to be someone forgettable, someone she could ignore while focusing on her future husband. She walked into the classroom and saw a mountain with blonde hair sitting in the back row. "Is that Naruto?" Ino whispered from across the aisle. "He's huge." Sakura stared. The boy she remembered from 2 years ago, already tall then, had become something that belonged on a battlefield poster, something you'd point to and say, "That's what a warrior looks like." He sat with his legs extended because the desk couldn't accommodate his frame, arms folded across a chest that stretched his shirt to its limits, and his eyes were closed in what looked like meditation. The golden glow she'd heard rumors about was absent. He just looked peaceful, almost asleep. Sasuke was already there, sitting 3 rows ahead, arms crossed, chin down, radiating his usual aura of brooding intensity. He glanced at Naruto once, then looked away. His jaw was tight. Kakashi Hatake arrived 3 hours late, standard operating procedure, and pushed the door open with his Icha volume already up near his face. He was mid-sentence in his head, rehearsing his usual "my first impression of you, I hate you" line, when his one visible eye landed on the blonde figure standing at the back of the room, and every alarm in his body fired at once. He'd read the file. He knew about the incident 5 years ago. He knew, on paper, that Naruto was tall and strong. Paper hadn't prepared him for this. The kid, 12 years old, a fresh Genin, radiated something Kakashi hadn't felt since standing near the third Raikage during the last war summit. A pressure, an unspoken weight in the air that pushed against Kakashi's instincts and told him, on a level below thought, this person can kill you whenever he wants. Kakashi closed his book, put it in his pouch, looked at Naruto with his full attention for the first time. "Well," he said, "you're tall." Naruto opened his eyes and stood. Even in the elevated rows of the classroom, he towered over Kakashi's 6-foot frame by a clean 4 inches. He inclined his head in a bow. "Good morning, Kakashi-sensei. Thank you for joining us." His voice was deep, even, Warm in the way that a banked fire is warm, heat without flicker, without rush. Polite in a way that felt ancient, like he'd been speaking to people with care for longer than 12 years could account for. Sakura and Sasuke both stared. Right, Kakashi said. He adjusted his headband. Rooftop. 5 minutes. Introductions. The introductions went the way introductions go. Sakura talked about Sasuke. Sasuke talked about killing his brother. Kakashi gave his vague non-answer about hobbies and dreams. Naruto, when it came to him, placed his hands on his knees and spoke with his eyes forward. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I enjoy morning training, reading, and the warmth of sunlight on my face. My goal is to become strong enough that the people around me never have to be afraid again. Sakura thought, he sounds like a samurai from a picture scroll. Sasuke thought, what a waste of a body. All that size and he talks like a pacifist. Kakashi thought, this kid is going to be the most dangerous shinobi alive inside of 5 years, and I'm supposed to teach him how to climb trees. The next morning, Training Ground 7. Dawn light cutting through the trees in gold bars. 3 wooden posts stood in the center of the clearing, and Kakashi leaned against the middle one with his hands in his pockets and a kunai held loosely between 2 fingers. Bell test, he said. 2 bells. 3 of you. Come at me with the intent to kill, or you won't get one. You have until noon. Sakura gripped her own kunai. Sasuke dropped into a fighting stance. Sharingan already spinning to life in one eye. He'd awakened it during the massacre, a single tomoe in each, still developing. Naruto stood behind them both. His hands were at his sides. His posture was loose, open, comfortable, in the way that only someone with absolute certainty in their own power can be comfortable in a combat zone. Kakashi's eye moved to him. Something about the way the boy stood made the Jonin's fingers tighten on his kunai. He'd fought S-rank missing nin. He'd stared down Obito's kamui and lived. He'd earned his reputation across 2 decades of unbroken service. He was nervous. Naruto stepped forward. Past Sakura, past Sasuke. Both of them looked up at his back, at the vast expanse of it, at the way his shirt pulled across muscle that didn't belong on a 12-year-old or anyone else. He bowed. Pardon my intrusion, Kakashi-sensei. And then he lifted off the ground. Sakura's mouth fell open. Sasuke's Sharingan spun faster, trying to track, trying to analyze, finding nothing it could decode. Naruto's feet left the earth by 6 inches, just hovering there, weightless, like gravity had politely asked for his cooperation and he had declined. And golden light began to bloom from his skin, from his eyes, from the edges of his hair. Kakashi raised his kunai, a flash. That was the only word for it. A flash of gold that crossed the training field from Naruto's position to Kakashi's in a span of time so small that light itself would have needed to hurry to keep up. The kunai in Kakashi's hand was gone. Both bells were gone from his hip. The copy ninja felt a weight settle on his right shoulder, heavy, warm, immovable, and he looked sideways to find Naruto's hand resting there, palm down, the way you'd rest a hand on a friend's shoulder to say hello. Naruto stood behind him, fully behind him, holding both bells in his left hand. I believe these belong to us. The training field was silent. A bird called somewhere in the canopy. A leaf drifted down and settled on Kakashi's silver hair. Kakashi's legs folded. He went down to one knee, half by choice, half because something in his hindbrain was telling him that the appropriate response to what had just happened was submission. His Sharingan, hidden behind his headband, hadn't seen a thing. His normal eye hadn't seen a thing. His reflexes, refined across 20 years of combat against the best the shinobi world had to offer, hadn't had time to fire a single signal. Ma, Kakashi said, and his voice was very, very even. Well, that happened. Naruto offered a bell to Sasuke, offered the other to Sakura. Kakashi-sensei's lesson is about teamwork, he said, gentle, instructive. Please, take them. I have everything I need. Sakura took the bell with trembling fingers. Sasuke took his without looking at Naruto. His jaw was so tight the muscle in his cheek jumped. Kakashi stood back up, dusted his knee, looked at his new student with the expression of a man who has just been told that the kitten he adopted is, in fact, a dragon. You pass, he said. All 3 of you. And Naruto? Yes, Kakashi-sensei. Remind me to never arm wrestle you. Team 7's early missions were D ranks, and Naruto completed them with the same steady grace he brought to everything. He painted fences without being asked. He caught Tora the cat by simply appearing in front of it. The animal froze, looked up at his towering frame, and went limp in surrender. He carried lumber for bridge repairs that would normally take a full Genin squad, holding entire stacks of timber under one arm while making conversation with the contractor about weather patterns. Sakura watched him and felt her understanding of strong reshape itself daily. This boy, because he was a boy, he was 12. He still said good morning to shopkeepers and bowed to elderly women in the street. This boy lived in a category she hadn't known existed. She'd spent years idolizing Sasuke's talent, his speed, his lineage. Sasuke was impressive. He was. Naruto was something else entirely. Naruto was a force of nature that happened to file mission reports in neat handwriting and bring his sensei coffee every morning. Sasuke, for his part, said nothing about the bell test, said nothing about the missions. He trained harder, pushed his body further, ran until his lungs burned and his Sharingan ached in its socket. He'd watch Naruto from across the training ground, watch the blonde go through forms that were too smooth, too alien, too right to be anything a 12-year-old should know, and something would twist in his stomach that he refused to name. Kakashi pulled Naruto aside one evening after a mission debrief. "Where did you learn to fight like that?" he asked. Direct, hands in pockets, but his single eye sharp. Naruto considered the question the way he considered everything, with a slight tilt of his head and a brief silence before answering. "The knowledge lives inside me, Kakashi-sensei. A life before this one left its mark. I have spent the last 5 years understanding what it gave me." Kakashi's eye narrowed. "A past life." "Yes, sir? And the golden light? The hovering? Cursed energy," Naruto said. "A force that exists alongside chakra, but follows its own rules. My body generates it in quantities that I have yet to find the ceiling of." Kakashi exhaled through his mask, ran a hand through his hair, thought about writing a report, decided against it, and instead said, "If you ever want to spar for real, at whatever level real means for you, I'd like to see it, for my own education." Naruto smiled. It was small, warm, genuine, a rare thing that softened his otherwise stoic features. "I would be honored, Kakashi-sensei, though I would ask you to bring backup." Kakashi laughed. It was the first time in years that a student had made him laugh without trying to. The request for a C-rank mission came from Naruto, politely, during a morning meeting with the Hokage. "Hokage-sama, if I may, I believe our team would benefit from a mission with greater responsibility. If there is something available that would allow us to serve outside the village walls, I would be grateful." The third looked at him over his pipe, looked at the file on his desk. Team 7's completion rate was perfect. Their efficiency rating was off the charts. Their client satisfaction scores were the highest in recent memory. "There is a bridge builder," the Hokage said, "from the land of waves. Tazuna was a drunk and a liar and a man who'd seen too much. He told his story. Gato, the corruption, the poverty, the bridge that could save them." And Naruto listened with his arms folded and his golden eyes resting on the old man's face without judgment. "We will protect you, Tazuna-san," Naruto said. "You have my word." Tazuna squinted up at him. "Aren't you supposed to be a kid?" "I am 12, sir. You're bigger than my house." "I have been told this, yes." The road to Wave stretched ahead through forests and over rolling hills. The team moved in formation, Kakashi on point, Sakura and Sasuke flanking the client, and Naruto walking at the rear with his hands clasped behind his back, taking long strides that ate ground without effort. His head turned every few seconds, scanning the tree line, the road behind them, the sky above. The golden flicker never left his eyes entirely, always there, always watching. The demon brothers attacked from a puddle. Kakashi let them come, a test for the genin. Their chains wrapped around his body, pulled, and the log substitution left them grasping at air. They redirected toward Tazuna, bladed chains whirling. Naruto was there before the chains reached full extension. He stood in front of Tazuna with one arm raised, and the bladed chain slammed into his forearm and stopped. The metal links went taut, vibrated, and the demon brothers on the other end felt like they just anchored themselves to a mountain. Naruto looked at the chains wrapped around his arm. The blades hadn't even broken skin, and then looked at the two Chunin with an expression of mild interest. "Interesting technique," he said. "However, I must ask you to stop." He closed his fist. The chains crumpled, metal twisting inward like tinfoil, links popping apart and scattering on the ground. The demon brothers stumbled forward, yanked off balance, and Naruto appeared between them with a step that crossed the distance faster than blinking. Two palms, each pressing gently against the sternum. Two bursts of light. Goal brief contained. Both brothers launched backward into separate tree trunks and stuck there, embedded in the wood, unconscious. Kakashi reappeared from the tree line, looking at the aftermath. "So," he said, "we have a problem." "The mission was misranked," Naruto confirmed. "Tazuna-san, I believe you have information you haven't shared." The bridge builder's face crumpled with guilt, and the truth spilled out. They pressed forward. Kakashi argued for turning back. Naruto looked at Tazuna and said, "We gave our word," with a finality that ended the discussion. Sasuke said nothing, but the set of his shoulders said he wanted to fight. Sakura was afraid but hid it well. The bridge and wave was half built, and Tazuna's home was small and clean and full of a family running on fumes. Inari, the boy with the hat and the red eyes from crying, took one look at Naruto and said, "You're going to die too. Everyone does." Naruto crouched down. Even crouching, he was at eye level with the standing child, and said, "I will protect your grandfather, Inari-san. And when this is over, you will see that hope is never wasted." Inari ran away. Naruto let him go. The mist came on the third morning. They were on the bridge, Tazuna overseeing his workers, the team spread out as escort. The air thickened. Visibility dropped to arm's length. The temperature fell like a stone dropped off a cliff, and the killing intent that rolled through the fog was enough to make Sakura's legs lock and Tazuna's tools clatter to the ground. Zabuza Momochi, the demon of the hidden mist. 7 feet of murderous swordsman wrapped in bandages and bloodlust, with a blade on his back that weighed more than most men, and a reputation that turned other assassins pale. His voice came from everywhere and nowhere. "Kakashi of the Sharingan, I expected you. But what's this? A child built like a warship?" The mist swirled. Zabuza's form appeared in fragments. A shoulder here, the gleam of that massive blade there. Water clones materialized on the bridge, surrounding the team from every angle. Kakashi pulled his headband up, Sharingan spinning, and dropped into a ready stance. Naruto stepped forward. He moved past Kakashi, past the clones, past Sasuke, who reached out and said, "Oi, what are you?" before his hand closed on empty air. Naruto stood at the front of the formation between his team and the thickest bank of mist, and his eyes burned gold through the white wall of fog like 2 small suns. "Darkness cannot hide from the light, Zabuza-san." He raised his right hand, extended his index finger toward the sky. Cursed energy gathered at the tip, dense, luminous, building in intensity until the mist around his hand began to steam and curl away. Cursed technique, sunburst. The world turned white. A wave of light, pure, aggressive, incandescent, erupted from Naruto's body in every direction. It didn't creep or spread or grow. It detonated, filling the bridge and the lake and the sky above in a single heartbeat, with a radiance so total that the mist didn't just dissipate. It ceased. The water molecules that made up Zabuza's hidden mist technique were atomized. The surface of the lake below boiled and threw up columns of steam 20 feet high. The water clones evaporated mid-step, bursting into spray that itself boiled away before it could fall. The entire bridge was bathed in gold. The workers shielded their eyes. Sakura threw her arms up. Sasuke's Sharingan blazed and ached as it tried to process light that intense. Kakashi pulled his headband back down over his Sharingan by reflex, and when the light faded, 3 seconds, maybe 4, the bridge stood in open air under a blue sky with the sun shining through where heavy fog had been moments before. Zabuza stood 50 meters away, at the far end of the bridge, fully exposed. His bandages were smoking. His skin was flushed red as if sunburned in those few seconds of exposure. His eyes, trained killer's eyes, eyes that had seen 100 deaths, were wide. "What the hell was that?" he breathed. Naruto lowered his hand, turned to face the swordsman across the length of the bridge. His posture was relaxed. His expression was polite. He looked like a man who had just opened a window to let in fresh air. "I do apologize for the brightness," he said. "It seemed the most efficient way to remove your technique." Zabuza gripped his blade. The executioner's blade came off his back in a 2-handed swing, massive and sweeping, and the demon of the mist moved. Because whatever else Zabuza was, he was a veteran, and veterans fight through fear or die standing still. He closed the distance in a burst of speed that would have caught most jonin off guard. The blade came down in a diagonal slash aimed at bisecting Naruto from shoulder to hip. Every pound of Zabuza's considerable strength went into that swing. The air split, the bridge shook, the blade connected with Naruto's left forearm. Naruto had raised it casually, the way you'd raise a hand to block sunlight from your eyes. The executioner's blade hit his bare skin and stopped, dead. The sound it made was wrong, dense, final, like metal hitting a wall of compressed diamond. A crack ran up the flat of the blade. Then another. Then the entire upper half of the executioner's blade fragmented into pieces that fell like rain around Naruto's feet, ringing against the bridge stones in a cascade of metallic notes. Zabuza held a broken hilt and half a sword, staring at it. Then at the arm it had broken against. Unmarked, unscratched, the skin smooth and warm. Your weapon is broken. Please, surrender. Zabuza's eye twitched. His mouth pulled back in something between a snarl and a grimace, and he swung the broken blade anyway. A survival reflex, the cornered animal that has forgotten how to do anything except bite. Naruto moved. One moment Zabuza was mid-swing. The next, Naruto was inside his guard, inside his breathing space, and a hand was pressing against 3 points on Zabuza's torso in sequence faster than any eye on that bridge could follow. Pressure points, nerve clusters, the body's own off switches, hit with a force that was perfectly modulated to disable without killing. Zabuza's eyes rolled back. His broken sword dropped. His knees buckled. Naruto caught him by the collar before he could fall, lowered him to the bridge stones with care, and folded the man's arms over his chest. "Brave fighter," Naruto said, looking down at the unconscious swordsman. "I hope you find better employers in the future." The bridge was silent for 5 whole seconds. Then Tazuna said, "Did he just—" "Yes," Kakashi said. His voice was flat with something that might have been awe disguised as exhaustion. "In one? Yes." Sakura's hands were still raised to shield her eyes from a light that was gone. She lowered them slowly, looked at Naruto, looked at the broken sword, looked at the unconscious A-rank missing nin laid out on the bridge like someone had tucked him in for a nap. "Naruto," she said. Her voice was small. "What are you?" He turned, smiled at her, gentle, reassuring. "I am your teammate, Sakura-san." "Is everyone unharmed?" Sasuke hadn't moved. He stood where he'd been when the light went off, and his fists were clenched so tight that his nails had broken the skin of his palms. Blood dripped between his fingers. His Sharingan was still active, both tomoe spinning in his right eye, and the expression on his face was something between fury and despair. How, he thought. How is the gap this big? How do I kill Itachi when people like this exist? Haku appeared from the tree line 10 minutes later, masked, reaching for Zabuza. Naruto let the Hunter 9 take the unconscious man. He could feel that Haku's intent was care, was loyalty, was love. There was nothing hostile in it. "Please take good care of him," Naruto said to Haku. Haku paused, looked up at the towering blonde through the slits of the porcelain mask, said nothing, lifted Zabuza's body with surprising strength and vanished into the trees. The week that followed was quiet in the way that the eye of a storm is quiet. Kakashi trained Sasuke and Sakura in tree climbing and water walking. Fundamentals they needed, skills that Naruto had mastered at age 9 during his solo training years. Naruto spent those days helping with the bridge. He carried steel beams that took 5 workers to lift. He welded joints by focusing light from his fingertip into a concentrated beam hot enough to melt metal. Tazuna watched this and drank less and less each day. "Kid," the old bridge builder said one evening, leaning against the railing as the sunset painted the water orange. "Why did you become a ninja? You could do anything. Be anything." Naruto set down a rivet he'd just finished sealing and looked out at the water. "Because I carry power, Tazuna-san. And power without purpose becomes a burden. I chose to serve because service gives meaning to strength. That's really mature for a 12-year-old. I have been told this as well." Tazuna laughed. "A real one. The first one in months, maybe years." Gato came to the bridge on the final day with 200 mercenaries at his back and Zabuza on the ground, beaten, betrayed, full of swords from Gato's ambush. Haku was already gone. having thrown himself between Zabuza and a killing blow earlier that morning in a confrontation with Sasuke that left the Uchiha shaking and Haku bleeding from a wound that should have been fatal. Naruto healed Haku first. He pressed his palm to the boy's chest where the Chidori had punched through. Kakashi had taught Sasuke the technique during the week's rest, a decision the copy ninja was already regretting, and white light flooded the wound. Flesh knitting, bone reforming, punctured lung inflating. Haku gasped awake, mask cracked, eyes wide and terrified. "Rest," Naruto said. "You will live." Then he stood and faced the army. 200 men, swords, crossbows, crude armor. Gato standing at the back in his expensive suit, sneering. "Kill them all," the merchant screamed. "I'll triple the pay." Naruto looked at the horde, looked at Gato, felt nothing that resembled concern. He'd fought things in his past life that would have eaten 200 mercenaries as a warm-up. He'd broken apart cursed spirits with the density of tailed beasts. He'd traded blows with Sukuna himself across a field of destroyed cities. 200 men with swords. He released his cursed energy in a wave. Just the pressure of it, just the weight. The first row of mercenaries stumbled. The second row dropped to their knees. The third row turned and ran. By the time the wave reached the back ranks, men were throwing their weapons off the bridge and jumping into the water below, swimming for shore, screaming about demons. Gato stood alone in seconds. His army had dissolved, fled, collapsed, surrendered en masse to the pressure of a 12-year-old's aura. The merchant backed up, tripped over his own feet, fell on his expensive suit. "Monster," he squeaked. Naruto looked down at him with gold eyes that held zero warmth. "You cause suffering here," he said. "The people of Wave will decide your fate. I suggest you cooperate." Inari and the villagers arrived with pitchforks and fishing spears moments later. Gato was dragged away. The bridge was completed that afternoon. They named it the Great Naruto Bridge, and when Tazuna told him, the boy bowed so low his forehead nearly touched the stones. "I am honored beyond words, Tazuna-san." Home, Konoha. The mission report went to the Hokage and set records for the most asterisks and footnotes a single C rank turned A rank had ever generated. Word spread further. The academy classes whispered about it. Other Genin teams heard fragments. Broke a legendary sword with his arm. Erased an entire hidden miss technique with a flash of light. Scared off 200 mercenaries without throwing a punch. Naruto moved through the village the way he always did. Polite, towering, unreachable. He greeted Ichiraku Ramen's owner by name and ate 6 bowls in a sitting. He trained with Kakashi 3 mornings a week and spent those sessions teaching Kakashi more than the other way around, showing the Jonin how cursed energy could reinforce a body beyond what chakra enhancement allowed, explaining the difference between the two systems with a patience that made Kakashi feel like the student. "You're terrifying, you know that?" Kakashi said one morning, sitting in the grass with his book closed for once. "I hope I am reassuring rather than frightening, Kakashi-sensei." "Both, somehow, both." The Chunin exams were announced, and Kakashi put Team 7 forward without hesitation. "If there's a reason to hold them back," he told the Jonin committee, "I'd love to hear it. But I think we all know that one member of my team is ready for anything this exam could throw at him, and the other 2 have grown enough under his example to hold their own." The first exam was paper. Naruto sat in his assigned seat, the desk groaning under his weight, and filled in the answers with the kind of handwriting that looked like it belonged in a museum. Ibiki's killing intent rolled through the room. Naruto didn't react. Around him, Genin sweated and panicked and dropped out. He sat with his pencil down for 40 minutes after finishing and waited for the final question with his hands folded on the desk. Ibiki looked at him, felt something looking back, decided this was above his pay grade. The second exam was the Forest of Death, and it was here that the story turned. Anko threw the scroll assignments and the gates opened, and 40 teams flooded into the forest. Team 7 moved in formation. Sasuke on point with his Sharingan active, Sakura in the middle with their scroll, Naruto at the rear. They collected their second scroll within an hour. A rain team tried to ambush them in a clearing. Naruto stood in front of the ambush, and the 3 rain genin looked up at him, looked at each other, placed their scroll on the ground, and backed away slowly with their hands raised. Wise decision, Naruto said, collecting the scroll. I wish you luck in finding another. They moved toward the tower. And then the air changed. The killing intent hit the forest like a physical wall. Trees creaked. Animals fled. Sakura fell to her knees, retching. Sasuke froze, his body locking up the way it had during the massacre, his mind flooded with images of Itachi's eyes, of blood on walls, of his parents falling. Naruto felt it, identified it, filed it away as unpleasant but irrelevant. The pressure of a Sanin's killing intent was significant. In the same way that a strong breeze is significant to a mountain, Orochimaru melted out of the shadows. He was wearing a grassman's face, literally his disguise a stolen skin, and his yellow eyes locked onto Sasuke with the hunger of a snake that has spotted its prey. Sasuke-kun, the Sanin breathed. Such potential, such eyes. Please step back, Sasuke-san. Naruto's voice was steady. He placed himself between Orochimaru and his teammate, the way a wall places itself between a storm and a house. Sasuke, still frozen, felt a hand on his shoulder. Naruto's, pushing him gently backward, and with the touch came warmth, came golden light that seeped through his shirt and broke the killing intense hold on his muscles. Sasuke stumbled back. Naruto stood forward. Orochimaru's eyes moved to the blonde, narrowed. The Sanin's tongue flicked the air. And who is this? The Kyuubi child? Yes? But you're different. You taste different. His head tilted at an unnatural angle. What is that energy? It's exquisite. I've never encountered anything like it. I would ask you to leave, Orochimaru said. You have nothing to gain here. Orochimaru laughed. The sound was like gravel grinding against glass. Oh, child, you have no idea what I stand to gain. He bit his thumb, slammed his palm to the earth. The summoning seal spread like ink in water, and Manda, the king of serpents, 100 feet of scaled death, erupted from the forest floor with enough force to shatter the trees in a 50-meter radius. The snake's body wrapped around the clearing, cutting off escape routes, and Orochimaru rode its head with his arms spread wide. Let's test you, the Sanin called down. Let's see what the fourth Hokage's legacy can do. Manda struck. The serpent's head drove forward with enough force to crater the ground, fangs dripping venom that hissed and ate through solid wood on contact. Naruto sidestepped the strike, a movement that covered 20 feet in 0 time, leaving a golden afterimage where he'd stood, and Manda's head buried itself in the earth. Orochimaru's hands flashed through seals. Hidden shadow snake hands! A dozen serpents erupted from his sleeves, each one coated in a venom engineered to dissolve living tissue. They wrapped around Naruto's left arm in a writhing mass and pumped their payload directly into his flesh. The venom burned. Naruto felt it, felt the cursed energy in his arm react to foreign corruption, felt the flesh start to break down at a cellular level, felt the pain spike from 0 to enormous in a heartbeat. His arm, from wrist to shoulder, turned black and began to smoke. Tissue liquefied under the skin. Veins burst. The bone itself started to corrode. Orochimaru grinned wide enough to split his face. Marvelous. That venom can melt through steel. In 30 seconds, your arm will. Naruto looked at his arm. Something flickered behind his eyes. A memory. A battlefield under a crimson sky. A creature with a wheel on its back that adapted to every attack that forced you to evolve or die. The Deskunta warrior had stood on that field with worse injuries than this and figured out how to reverse the damage in real time, parsing the negative energy signature and flipping it positive with the raw processing power of a mind built for combat. Naruto did the same thing now. The math was instant. Cursed energy had a polarity, negative by default. Injuries, toxins, corruption, they fed on the negative flow. But if you ran that energy through itself in a specific way, output multiplied by output, negative times negative yielding positive, the result was reconstruction, healing, reverse curse technique. White steam exploded from his arm. The blackened flesh stopped rotting, reversed. Cells rebuilt themselves in fast forward, tissue reweaving, veins reforming, skin smoothing over. The venom burned out of his system like morning dew under a sunrise, transmuted into harmless nothing by the positive energy flooding every fiber. In 2 seconds, his arm was whole, unmarked. The steam cleared and the limb hung at his side, flexing its fingers, stronger than before. Fascinating, Naruto said. His eyes moved from his healed arm to Orochimaru. His voice carried that same measured warmth, But underneath it, far underneath, something shifted. An acknowledgement that this person had meant to maim him, had meant to rot him alive, had done it while grinning. I understand it now. Then the courtesy falling away just enough to reveal the steel beneath. That was quite rude. Naruto moved. He covered the distance between himself and Orochimaru in a fraction of an instant. Airborne, golden light trailing from his body like the tail of a comet, faster than the Sanin's eyes could track. His fist connected with Orochimaru's midsection first. The impact folded the snake sage in half and launched him off Manda's head. Before Orochimaru's body could clear the first 10 feet of airspace, Naruto was already there, ahead of him, above him, elbow driving downward into the Sanin's spine. The crack was audible across the entire clearing. Orochimaru's eyes went white. His body bent at an angle that human spines were never meant to achieve. He tried to substitute, tried to shed his skin, and got halfway through the technique before Naruto's knee came up and caught him in the jaw. The mandible fractured in 3 places. Teeth sprayed. Blood vaporized from the speed of the impact. Orochimaru's stolen face caved inward and the body ragdolled through 4 trees before slamming into a cliff face hard enough to embed itself waist deep in solid rock. Manda, the great serpent, the king of all snakes, looked at what had just happened to his summoner and dismissed himself. Simply popped back to the summoning realm without a word. The giant snake wanted absolutely zero part of whatever was happening here. Orochimaru's body twitched in the cliff face. Then the real technique kicked in. The skin split, the true body emerging from the ruins of the false one like a snake shedding its molt. The Sanin pulled himself free, whole again but visibly shaken. His yellow eyes were wide. His mouth, freshly reformed, hung open, jaw working without sound. His ribs were healed by the shedding, but the memory of them breaking was written across his face. His spine, the second spine this body had grown, still ached with phantom pain. His jaw throbbed. He'd fought the third Hokage. He'd killed Kazekages. He'd dueled Jiraiya to a standstill. He had never been hit like that. Nothing in his encyclopedic experience of combat had prepared him for that kind of speed, that kind of force, that kind of absolute certainty from a 12-year-old child. You, Orochimaru coughed, spat blood-tinged bile. You're interesting. Very interesting. Naruto hung in the air above the clearing. Golden light pulsed around his frame in gentle waves. His arms were at his sides. His expression hadn't changed from its baseline of patient, formal composure. Leave, Naruto said, and do take Sasuke-san's name out of your plans. He is under my protection. Orochimaru looked at him for 5 long seconds. Then the Sanin smiled, a thin, pained thing, and sank into the earth. Gone. Fled. Naruto descended to the forest floor and turned to find Sasuke and Sakura staring at him. Sakura had tears streaming down her face, from fear, from relief, from the overwhelming impossibility of what she just witnessed. Sasuke was on his feet, Sharingan spinning, but his face was blank. Processing. Failing to process. Is everyone all right? Naruto asked. Sakura launched herself at him and buried her face in his chest. She sobbed once, a single shaking breath, and then pulled back, embarrassed. Sorry, I'm sorry. There is nothing to apologize for, Sakura-san. You were very brave. He looked at Sasuke. The Uchiha met his eyes. Something passed between them, an acknowledgement, a distance, a growing gulf that Naruto recognized and wished he could close. Let us reach the tower, Naruto said. We should rest before the next stage. They reached the tower in record time. Other teams gave them a wide berth. Word had already spread through the forest like wildfire. The blonde giant from Konoha had fought a S rank in the trees and won. Someone with Sans insignia told someone from Sound, who told someone from Rain. And by the time the preliminary matches were announced, half the assembled genin couldn't look at Naruto without feeling their knees go soft. The preliminaries were held in the tower's central arena. Hayate Gecko coughed through the announcements, and the randomized matchups began cycling through names on the board above. Naruto watched the fights with polite interest. Sasuke fought one of Orochimaru's Soundnin and won through grit and Sharingan copying. Naruto noted that the curse mark pulsed on Sasuke's neck during the fight and filed that away as something to address later. Sakura fought Ino to a draw and apologized to her afterward. Shikamaru won through intelligence. Kankuro won through puppets. Then the board cycled and showed Naruto Uzumaki vs. Kiba Inuzuka. Kiba grinned. Akamaru barked. Finally, I've been waiting to see what the big guy can do up close. Naruto walked down the stairs to the arena floor. Each step was measured, patient, and the concrete cracked faintly under his weight, something that everyone noticed and no one commented on. He stood in his starting position and bowed to Kiba. I will try to finish this quickly so as to avoid causing you unnecessary discomfort. Kiba-san, unnecessary? Dude, I'm gonna... Hayate dropped his hand. Begin. Kiba and Akamaru launched into fang over fang, twin rotations of razor-sharp speed spiraling toward Naruto from two angles. The technique was fast by Genin standards. Impressive, well-practiced, Naruto extended his hand, palm open. A small pulse of golden light, barely visible, a whisper of his full power, expanded from his palm in a spherical wave. Both spiraling forms hit the wave and stopped. Momentum canceled, physics overruled. Kiba and Akamaru tumbled out of their rotations and landed in a heap at Naruto's feet, dizzy, confused, unhurt. Naruto crouched down, knees to chest, which still left him towering over the grounded Kiba, and said, a very spirited technique. Would you like to continue, or shall I declare this finished? Kiba looked up at him, at the golden eyes, at the frame that blotted out the arena lights, at the total lack of effort on a face that could have been carved from bronze. I yield. Excellent match, Kiba-san. The crowd murmured. In the stands above, the Jonin sensei exchanged glances. Kurenai gripped the railing. Asuma's cigarette hung unlit from his lip. Guy said, the flames of youth burn impossibly bright in that one. Kakashi said nothing. He just watched. The main tournament bracket was set. The month of training before the finals flew past in a blur of mornings where Naruto refined his techniques in solitude, standing atop the Hokage monument at dawn, surrounded by spheres of golden light that orbited his body like small stars, practicing the fine-grained control that turned a battlefield technique into something beautiful. He checked on Sasuke once, found the Uchiha training with Kakashi in a ravine outside the village, working on the Chidori. Naruto stood at the ravine's edge and watched for a few minutes. Sasuke sensed him, looked up. Come to watch? Sasuke called. His voice had an edge. Come to measure the gap? I came to wish you well in the final, Sasuke-san. Yeah, sure. Naruto left without pressing. Some distances couldn't be closed with words. He also visited Hinata in the hospital, as she'd been injured by Neji during the preliminaries, a match that Naruto had watched with his jaw set and his golden eyes burning. The Hyuga prodigy's cruelty toward his cousin had been personal, vicious, and fueled by a pain that Naruto recognized, the feeling of being trapped by circumstances you didn't choose. He brought her flowers, sat in the visitor's chair, which creaked alarmingly, and told her she'd fought bravely. Thank you, Naruto-kun, she whispered, red-faced, pulling her blanket up to her nose. Rest well, Hinata-san. I will address Neji-san's anger in the arena. For both of you. The Chunin exam finals, the stadium was packed. Lords and ladies from across the fire country filled the noble boxes. The Kazekage, who was Orochimaru in disguise, though only one person in the arena could feel the Sanin's sickly energy signature beneath the stolen face, sat beside the Hokage. Anbu patrolled the perimeter. Betting books changed hands. Naruto's match was second. He sat in the contestant box with his arms folded, watching the first fight with patient attention. When his name was called, he stood and the crowd went silent. He walked down the stairs into the arena, and 60,000 people stared at a 12-year-old who looked like he'd been chiseled from living stone by a sculptor who only knew how to make war gods. His footsteps on the arena floor sounded heavy, real. The ground accepted his weight the way bedrock accepts rainfall. Across from him, Hyuga Neji. The Hyuga prodigy stood with his Byakugan already active, veins bulging around his white eyes, 360-degree vision sweeping the arena. He'd studied Naruto's preliminary fight. He'd studied the rumors from Wave. He'd concluded, in the analytical way that was his nature, that Naruto's abilities fell outside the normal spectrum, but that fate was fate, and his own destiny as a genius could overcome any obstacle. Uzumaki, Neji said. His voice was cold. Sure, you may be large, and you may be strong, but my eyes see all. Your tenketsu are exposed. Your fate is sealed by birth, just as mine is. A dropout who happened upon a trick remains a dropout. Naruto listened. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back, a posture that somehow made his enormous frame look peaceful rather than threatening. He let Neji speak. Let the words flow. Let the anger behind them reveal itself in its entirety. Neji's speech went on, about the main branch, about his father's death, about destiny and its chain being unbreakable, about how those born at the bottom stay at the bottom. When he finished, the arena was waiting. Naruto spoke. Your perspective is clouded by your own pain, Neji-san. Let me show you clarity. Neji's eyes widened, just a fraction, and then he surged forward. The gentle fist uncoiled in its full elegance. 8 trigrams, 64 palms. His hands blurred. His fingers drove forward with pinpoint accuracy, striking tenketsu along Naruto's arms, chest, shoulders, neck. Every point a gate for chakra flow. Every strike designed to shut down the body's ability to function. 2 palms. His fingertips connected with Naruto's forearm. The impact felt like striking warm marble. His fingers actually hurt. 4 palms. The same lack of give, the same impossible density. Neji's Byakugan screamed information at him. The blonde's tenketsu were there, visible, real, but something else ran through his body alongside the chakra network. A second system, thicker, brighter, impenetrable to gentle fist strikes because it operated on principles the Byakugan had never been designed to perceive. 8 palms, 16 palms, 32 palms, 64 palms. Every single strike connected. Every single one felt like hitting a mountainside. Neji's fingers bled from the impacts. His wrists ached. His form, perfect, owned through years of training, accomplished absolutely nothing. He stumbled back, stared at his hands, stared at Naruto. The giant hadn't moved, hadn't flinched, hadn't raised a guard or shifted his weight or done anything at all except stand there and receive the full 64-palm assault the way the ocean receives a thrown stone. Impossible, Neji whispered. The crowd erupted, 60,000 voices screaming in disbelief. That technique, the Hyuga clan's signature, their pride, their ultimate close-range assault, had been rendered completely void by a body that simply refused to acknowledge it. Naruto stepped forward. 1 step. Neji instinctively shifted into his rotation stance, the Kaiten, the main branch technique he taught himself through sheer genius. That will work against most attacks, Naruto said, almost gently. I am sorry. He pressed his right palm forward, open, flat, pushing, and from it came a pulse of light. Golden, warm, irresistible. The chitin spun up. Neji rotated at full speed, expelling chakra from every point in his body, creating the dome of absolute defense that was the Hyuga's greatest technique. The light pulse hit the dome and went through it. It passed through the rotation the way sunlight passes through glass. As if the spinning wall of chakra was simply a different medium, something to refract around rather than collide with. The pulse hit Neji's chest dead center and launched him out of his own defensive technique. He flew backward, fast, hard, and slammed into the arena wall with enough force to crack the concrete in a spiderweb around his body. He stayed there, pinned by the residual pressure, feet off the ground, arms spread. His Byakugan was still active, and his face was white with the shock of it. Naruto lowered his hand. He looked up at Neji with those golden eyes, warm, serious, holding something that looked remarkably like compassion. "You are free to choose your own path," he said. "Your father made his choice out of love, Neji-san. He was never a slave to fate. He chose, and so can you." The pressure released. Neji slid down the wall to his feet. His legs buckled and he dropped to his knees. His Byakugan deactivated, the veins smoothing, the white eyes going wide and wet with something he hadn't felt in years. "Good match," Naruto said, and bowed. The stadium detonated, applause, screaming, stamping feet that shook the structure. In the noble box, the Fire Lord leaned to his advisor and said, "Who is that boy?" In the Kage box, the disguised Orochimaru felt his newly formed ribs ache at the memory of those fists and thought, the invasion timeline may need adjustment. In the contestant box, Sasuke gripped the railing until his knuckles popped. And in the stands, Hyuga Hiashi, head of the clan's main branch, Neji's uncle, the architect of so much of the boy's suffering, leaned forward in his seat and felt something crack in the wall he'd built around his own heart. The other fights played out. Sasuke's match was scheduled against Gaara, and the tension in the stadium when both of them walked onto the arena floor was electric. The Uchiha prodigy versus the Jinchuriki of Suna, A fight the betting books had gone wild over, but the fight barely started. Sasuke managed 2 exchanges, his speed impressive, his Chidori screaming through the air, before Gaara's sand caught him in a crushing grip and the redhead's eyes went blank. The sand armor cracked. Something beneath it growled. In the Kage box, the signal was given. Feathers fell. Genjutsu blanketed the stadium, sending civilians and weaker shinobi into enforced sleep. Anbu surged. The Kazekage revealed himself as Orochimaru and trapped the third Hokage in a barrier on the rooftop. Sound and sand shinobi flooded the village. The invasion of Konoha had begun. In the arena, Gaara's siblings grabbed him and fled. The Suna Jinchuriki was mid-transformation, sand coating his body, a tail forming, one arm elongating into a monstrous claw. Baki ordered the retreat. They went over the wall and into the forest. Naruto felt it all. The genjutsu had brushed against his mind and slid off like water on stone. Cursed energy flooded his neural pathways and burned foreign intrusions out by reflex. He stood in the arena surrounded by chaos, shinobi fighting in the stands, civilians screaming, the snake summons materializing on the village walls. He turned to Sakura. To Sasuke, who was free from Gaara's sand but winded. "Sakura-san, please assist with evacuations. Sasuke-san, the western wall is under assault. Kakashi-sensei is there. Join him." "What about you?" Sakura asked. "I will handle the primary threat." He looked toward the forest, felt the massive alien energy signature that Gaara was becoming, the tailed beast beneath the boy's skin clawing its way free, driven by pain and madness and years of isolation. Naruto rose into the air. Golden light surrounded him. He left the stadium in a streak that split the sky. In the forest outside Konoha, Gaara became something terrible. The full transformation erupted from his body like a mountain growing from flat earth. Sand coalescing, compressing, shaping itself into the towering form of the one-tailed beast. Shukaku. 100 feet of insane laughter and compressed wind and malevolent intelligence poured into a body made of living desert. The trees for a quarter mile in every direction were ground to sawdust beneath its forming legs. Tamari and Kankuro fled its shadow, screaming. Shukaku laughed. The sound leveled a hillside. "Free! I'm free! Ha! Let me kill! Let me!" A golden light appeared above it. Naruto hovered at eye level with the tailed beast, 200 feet up, alone, serene. The wind generated by Shukaku's movement should have blown him aside like a leaf. He hung in place as if bolted to the sky. His golden eyes looked down at the beast and, through it, at the boy trapped in sand at its core. Gaara, unconscious, used as a battery, a child who had known nothing but fear and rejection, and the voice of a demon telling him to kill. "You are suffering," Naruto said. His voice carried across the distance as if amplified by the light itself, reaching every ear in the area. Tamari's, Kankuro's, the pursuing Konoha who had followed the transformation signature. "Let me bring you peace." Shukaku swung, a fist made of 10,000 tons of compressed sand, traveling at a speed that should have been impossible for something that large, aimed at the golden speck in the sky. Naruto brought his hands together, palms touching, fingers interlaced, a gesture like prayer, like meditation, like someone closing their eyes before blowing out a candle. Domain expansion. The world held its breath. Zenith of the dawn. It started at his palms. A sphere of light, perfect, absolute, warm in the way that the sun is warm when you're cold, expanded outward from the point where his hands met. It grew, swelled, doubled in diameter once, twice, 3 times, 5 times, 10, expanding at a rate that outpaced Shukaku's fist, outpaced the wind, outpaced sound itself. The sphere swallowed the beast's incoming strike. The sand fist entered the golden boundary and stopped, froze. Every grain of sand within the domain's radius lost its momentum and hung in space, held by a gravity that answered to Naruto alone. The sphere kept growing. It swallowed Shukaku's arm, its chest, its head, the mad eyes going wide as the light reached them, its legs, its tail. The entire tailed beast, 100 feet of compressed death, was enclosed within a sphere of golden radiance that pulsed once, twice, and then went still. Inside the domain, absolute serenity. The rules were simple. Within the zenith of the dawn, hostile intent could gain purchase on nothing. Violent energy dispersed the moment it formed. The gravity bent toward peace, toward stillness, toward the cessation of rage. It was a weapon that functioned by removing the concept of weaponry from its sphere of influence. Shukaku's chakra, fueled entirely by rage and madness, hit the domain's rules and evaporated. The sand body lost cohesion. Grain by grain, the tailed beast's form collapsed inward, unable to maintain itself when the anger sustaining it was being siphoned away into light. The construct shrank, 100 feet becoming 80, then 60, then 40. The sand falling like golden rain inside the sphere, each grain catching the light as it descended. At the center, a small body emerged from the collapsing sand. Gaara, red hair, dark circles, thin limbs, unconscious, falling. Naruto was there. He caught the boy, one arm beneath his shoulders, one beneath his knees. Gaara weighed almost nothing, too thin, too hollow, a vessel that had been emptied of everything except pain. The domain dissolved. The sphere of light folded inward, contracted to a point of brilliance between Naruto's shoulder blades, and vanished. The sky was blue again. The forest was silent. Naruto descended to the ground, Gaara cradled in his arms. He landed without sound. Around him, the area where Shukaku had stood was simply clear. Sand scattered across the ground like beach dunes relocated. Trees that had been destroyed were gone. The earth was smooth. Temari and Kankuro arrived first, weapons drawn but shaking. Gaara? Temari's voice cracked. He is unharmed, Naruto said. He walked toward them, the unconscious redhead in his arms, and his expression was gentle. The beast is suppressed. Your brother needs rest, kindness, and the knowledge that he is wanted. Please give him those things. Temari dropped her fan. Her legs gave out, and she sat in the dirt, staring at Naruto, at Gaara, alive and breathing and unmarked, and tears cut tracks through the dust on her face. Kankuro took his brother from Naruto's arms. His hands were shaking, but his grip was sure. Why? Kankuro asked. We attacked your village. Why save him? Naruto looked at the puppeteer, looked at Gaara's sleeping face. Because he is a child who needed help, he said. That is reason enough. The invasion ended within the hour. Without Shukaku, the linchpin of Orochimaru's plan, the assault lost its centerpiece. The sound and sand forces, facing a fully mobilized Konoha without their trump card, broke and fled. Orochimaru escaped from the third Hokage after a brutal fight that left the old man alive but drained. The Sannin had committed fewer resources to the barrier fight, distracted by the knowledge that its primary weapon had been erased from the board by a child. The village stood. Damaged, yes, grieving in places, but standing, and everyone, from the Anbu captains to the Genin who'd fought in the streets to the civilians who'd huddled in shelters, everyone knew who had ended it. The boy who floated above the forest. The boy who caught the tailed beast in a sphere of light and folded it into nothing. The boy who carried the Jinchuriki of sand to safety in his arms and asked nothing in return. Naruto Uzumaki. The weeks after the invasion were strange. Konoha rebuilt. The alliance with sand, tentative, born from the shared recognition that both villages had been Orochimaru's pawns, formed in a flurry of diplomatic meetings that Naruto had zero involvement in. He helped rebuild instead. Carried lumber and stone, welded structural joints with focused light the way he'd done on Tazuna's bridge. When civilians saw him in the streets now, they didn't cross to the other side. Some of them bowed. One old woman, one of the mob from 5 years ago, though she'd never admit it, pressed a bag of fresh mochi into his hands and said thank you without meeting his eyes. Naruto accepted the mochi and bowed. You are very kind, Oba-san. Thank you. Small things, human things. The village was learning, one interaction at a time, that the boy they'd hated was the thing standing between them and annihilation. Kakashi watched this happen and thought about Minato. Thought about what the fourth would say if he could see his son, this towering golden-eyed warrior with the manners of a feudal lord and the power of a natural disaster, being handed mochi in the street by a woman who'd once thrown stones at him. Sensei, Kakashi murmured to the sky, your kid turned out all right. The Sasuke situation deteriorated. It was invisible at first. The Uchiha still trained with the team, still ran missions, still spoke in monosyllables and brooded in corners and deflected Sakura's attempts at connection. But something beneath the surface was rotting. The curse mark on his neck pulsed in quiet moments, whispering promises, and the gap between himself and Naruto had gone from significant to incomprehensible in the span of a few months. He'd watched the domain expansion from the village wall. He'd seen the golden sphere swallow a tailed beast. He'd felt the aftermath. The silence, the warmth, the utter finality of it. I'm supposed to kill Itachi. Itachi murdered our entire clan. And my teammate, who I sit next to on missions, who brings Kakashi coffee, who bows to shopkeepers, could do it in his sleep. What does that make me? The Sound Four found him at his lowest point. They came at night, slipping through Konoha's rebuilt perimeter with the casual ease of elite operatives, and they told Sasuke everything he wanted to hear. Power. Orochimaru could give him power. Real power. The kind that could close gaps. The kind that could kill Itachi. Sasuke listened. And in the dead of night, his headband left on his empty bed, he left. The retrieval mission was assembled at dawn. Shikamaru led. Naruto was assigned? Of course he was. Along with Neji, recently discharged from the hospital, humbled and refocused, Kiba and Akamaru, and Choji, 5 genin sent to retrieve one. They moved fast. The Sound Four's trail was fresh, their passage marked by faint distortions in the forest's natural energy that Naruto tracked with the precision of a bloodhound following a scent. The others handled the vanguard, Choji peeling off to fight Jirobo, Neji staying behind for Kidomaru, Kiba engaging Sakan. One by one, the retrieval team shed members to hold the Sound Four at bay. Naruto wanted to help, could have helped all of them, could have ended every fight in a single heartbeat. But Sasuke was pulling further ahead, and the curse mark's energy was growing stronger with every mile, and there was something in Naruto's chest that said if I don't catch him now, I lose him forever. He left Shikamaru to handle Tayuya and blasted ahead. A golden streak between the trees, the Valley of the End, 2 statues, Madara and Hashirama, flanking a waterfall that roared down a cliff face into a basin of churning white water. The morning sun came over the ridge and painted everything in gold and blue. Sasuke stood at the top of Madara's statue. His curse mark was active. Level 2. His skin had gone gray-brown. His hair had grown long and wild. Wings, great hand-shaped things of bone and membrane, that spread from his back. His Sharingan blazed full maturity, 3 tomoe spinning in each eye. He looked twisted. A version of himself put through a filter of malice and desperation. Handsome still, in the way that predatory things are handsome but wrong. Different, lost. Naruto landed on Hashirama's head. The stone cracked under his weight. He straightened up and looked across the divide at his teammate, at the friend he'd failed to reach with kindness, with patience, with the steady example of strength used well. Sasuke-san. His voice carried over the waterfall's roar, amplified by cursed energy, reaching the Uchiha's ears with perfect clarity. I must ask you to return to the village. Sasuke laughed. It was sharp, broken. Return? To what? To standing in your shadow? To watching you in fights before they start? To being the teammate of someone who makes everything I do look like a child playing with toys? His Sharingan blazed brighter. The curse mark pulsed and spread, vein patterns crawling across his face. You want to know why I'm leaving, Naruto? It's because staying means accepting that the gap will never close. Orochimaru can give me what staying never will. Naruto's golden eyes held steady. Orochimaru will use your body and discard your soul, Sasuke-san. Whatever power he offers comes at the cost of everything you are. Then let it come, Sasuke roared. He raised his hand. The Chidori screamed to life, but wrong, twisted by the curse mark's influence into something that crackled with pitch-black lightning. The sound it made was less 1,000 birds and more 1,000 screaming voices. I don't care what it costs! I need power! I need to kill him! The black Chidori blazed in his palm. He launched himself from Madara's head, wings spreading, speed enormous, driven by rage and the curse mark's second stage, and every ounce of talent the Uchiha bloodline had ever concentrated into a single vessel. Naruto watched him come. He thought about Dabura Karaba, about the Deskunte warrior who had faced opponents consumed by their own fury, opponents who had abandoned reason, who had thrown themselves into the abyss of their own hatred because the alternative was admitting that the world had hurt them and they were allowed to grieve. He thought about light, about how he tried to be light, warm, guiding, revealing, how he'd shown Gaara peace, how he'd shown Neji truth, how he'd shown the village that power could be gentle. But Sasuke wasn't reaching for the light. Sasuke was running from it, running into the abyss with his hands outstretched and his teeth bared. If my light cannot reach you, Naruto said. He raised his right hand, extended his palm. Then I will show you the void. He ran his cursed energy forward into his innate technique, past the baseline of light manipulation into the reversal. Light flipped to its opposite. Brightness inverted. The golden glow around his hand collapsed inward, folded on itself, became the absence of everything it usually was. A sphere appeared in his palm. It was the size of a fist. It was perfectly round. And it was the most profoundly empty thing that had ever existed in this world. A void with mass, a darkness with gravity, a point where light went to die and energy went to feed the absence. Looking at it hurt. Looking at it made the brain rebel, because the brain was designed to process information, and this sphere was the removal of information from existence. Curse technique reversal, darkness. Sasuke's black Chidori screamed toward him. The Uchiha's full speed, the curse mark's full power, a lifetime of rage compressed into a single point of black lightning. The void sphere extended. Naruto held his palm open, and the darkness met the Chidori, swallowed it. The black lightning entered the sphere and ceased to exist. The cursed mark's energy, all of it, the overflow that was pouring through Sasuke's system, was drawn toward the void like water toward a drain. The sphere ate the kinetic force, ate the lightning, ate the chakra, ate the curse mark's energy from Sasuke's body through the point of contact. Sasuke's transformation flickered. His wings shivered. The gray-brown faded from his skin in patches. What? Sasuke's eyes went wide. He could feel it, the power being pulled out of him. The curse marks whispered promises going silent as the source was consumed. His speed died. His momentum vanished. He hung in the air for a single, weightless instant. A boy with fading wings and fading rage and fading certainty. Then he went limp. His eyes rolled back. The curse mark receded to its dormant state. 3 tomoe on his neck, pulsing weakly, quieted. His transformation dissolved entirely. His wings vanished. His hair shortened. His skin returned to its normal pale. He fell. Naruto was there. He caught Sasuke by the collar, one-handed, effortless, and pulled the unconscious boy to his chest. The void sphere in his other hand dissolved, and the golden light returned to its usual gentle radiance. He hovered above the waterfall, holding his teammate, and looked down at Sasuke's face. Peaceful in unconsciousness, young again without the mask of rage, just a boy. A hurt, angry, lost boy. Naruto pressed 2 fingers to the back of Sasuke's neck. A clean strike, precise to the nerve cluster, reinforcing the unconsciousness so it held firm. Rest now, my friend. The waterfall roared beneath them. The statues of Madara and Hashirama watched from their eternal positions. 2 old rivals, frozen in stone, bearing witness to a moment between 2 boys that echoed their own story in a different key. Naruto flew home. He arrived at Konoha's gates with Sasuke over his shoulder as the sun climbed toward noon. Sakura was at the gate. Kakashi was at the gate. Half the village was at the gate. Word had traveled, the way word always traveled, and everyone wanted to know if the retrieval team had succeeded. Naruto landed at the threshold, set Sasuke down on the ground, gently, propping him against the gate post. Stepped back. Sakura was there in an instant, hands glowing green with medical jutsu, checking vitals, checking the curse mark, checking for injuries that weren't there. Her eyes were wet. Her lip trembled. Is he okay? Exhausted and drained, Naruto said. The curse mark is suppressed. He will wake in a few hours. Kakashi appeared at his side, put a hand on his shoulder, or tried to. Reaching up to the blonde's shoulder was a stretch for the copy ninja. The others? Kakashi asked. The retrieval team engaged the Sound Four along the route. I was unable to assess their conditions before pursuing Sasuke-san. Please send medical teams along the northern forest path. Kakashi nodded, made a hand sign. 3 Anbu vanished from the rooftops, heading north. The crowd parted as medical nin arrived for Sasuke. They lifted him onto a stretcher, and Sakura went with them, one hand on the stretcher rail, refusing to let go. Naruto stood at the gate and watched them carry his teammate away. The golden light in his eyes dimmed to its resting state. Barely there, a suggestion of warmth behind blue irises. He was tired. For the first time in a long time, years maybe, he was tired. The fight had taken effort. The void sphere had taken focus. The flight back had taken will. But Sasuke was home. The village was whole. The people he cared about were alive. A hand tugged his shirt. He looked down. Konohamaru, the third's grandson, small and fierce and always trailing after Naruto with stars in his eyes, stood there with a boxed lunch in his hands. "Ni-chan, you look like you could eat." Oba-chan made extras. Naruto smiled. It was wide, warm, and reached his eyes in a way that transformed his entire face from something imposing into something human. He crouched down. Even crouching, he towered and accepted the lunch with both hands. "You are very kind, Konohamaru-kun. Thank you." He sat against the gate wall, legs stretched out across the path, and ate rice balls one by one while the village moved around him. People walked past and nodded. Some waved. An old man with a broom paused and said, "Good work out there, boy," without quite making eye contact. Two academy kids pointed and whispered excitedly from across the road. Kakashi leaned against the wall beside him, icha back in hand, reading without reading. "You did good today," Kakashi said. "Thank you, Kakashi-sensei." You know he's going to try to leave again, eventually. Naruto set down his rice ball, looked at the sky, blue streaked with white clouds, peaceful. "Then I will bring him back again, Kakashi-sensei. As many times as it takes." Kakashi turned a page. "You really think you can save everyone?" Naruto considered the question. The golden glow in his eyes pulsed once, warm, steady, certain. "I believe that attempting to is its own form of salvation," he said. "Whether I succeed is less important than whether I try." Kakashi closed his book, looked at his student, 12 years old, 6'4", carrying the soul of a warrior from another world's mythology, and felt something he hadn't felt in a very long time. Something that looked, from certain angles, like hope. "Ma," Kakashi said, "you're too wise for your own good." "I have been told this as well, Kashi-sensei." They sat in comfortable silence. The wind blew through the gate. The village hummed with the sound of recovery. Hammers and voices and children playing. Somewhere in the hospital, Sasuke slept, and the curse mark on his neck stayed dormant under the weight of what Naruto's void had taken from it. Somewhere in Suna, Gaara was learning to sleep for the first time, freed from Shikaku's voice by a sphere of golden light and the words of a boy who'd chosen to see suffering instead of an enemy. Somewhere in the world, Orochimaru nursed broken ribs that had healed wrong and planned in the shadows of bases the light hadn't found yet. The story was far from over. But for now, for this single afternoon, Naruto Uzumaki sat against the wall of his village and ate rice balls and felt the sun on his face. And that was enough. 3 days passed. The retrieval team returned, battered, but alive, every last one of them. Choji was the worst off, having pushed his body past its limits with the Akimichi pills, but the medical corps stabilized him within hours. Neji had taken arrows through both shoulders. Kiba had lacerations across his torso. Shikamaru was physically unharmed, but carrying the weight of command in his eyes, the look of a boy who'd sent friends into fights he couldn't guarantee they'd survive. Naruto visited each of them, brought food, gratitude, and the quiet strength of his presence. He sat with Choji while the larger boy ate his recovery meals and told him he'd been brave. He thanked Neji, and meant it, for fighting an opponent whose abilities would have overwhelmed most jonin. He clasped Kiba's hand and told Akamaru he was the best dog in the world. With Shikamaru, he sat longer, said less. "You brought everyone home, Shikamaru-san," he said at last. "Every one of them. That is leadership." Shikamaru turned his head on the pillow and looked at Naruto with tired, intelligent eyes. "You'd have beaten all 4 of them by yourself, wouldn't you?" It wasn't really a question. Naruto inclined his head. "Perhaps. But I needed to reach Sasuke before the distance became permanent." "Troublesome," Shikamaru muttered. But he smiled. The Hokage summoned Naruto the following morning. The third sat behind his desk, recovering from the invasion fight, his old body aching with the lingering effects of forbidden jutsu that had almost been used. Bandages visible beneath his robes. His pipe was unlit. His eyes were sharp as ever. "Sit, Naruto." Naruto sat. The chair protested. "I have your mission report, and Kakashi's mission report, and 6 separate Anbu observation reports from the invasion." The Hokage spread the papers across his desk. "The domain technique alone would place you in our bingo books at an S-rank classification. The speed, the durability, the healing." He set his pipe down. "You are, by any measurement I possess, the strongest combatant this village has produced since Hashirama Senju. Hokage-sama? I say this with neither praise nor concern. It is simply fact, and it raises a question I must ask directly. The old man's eyes locked onto Naruto's. What do you want, Naruto? With power like this, power that could reshape the continent, what is your intent? Naruto was silent for a long moment. He sat with his massive frame folded into a chair built for smaller people, his golden eyes on the Hokage's face, and when he spoke, his voice was the same as always, even, warm, certain. I want to protect people, Hokage-sama. I want the children in this village to grow up without fearing monsters in the night. I want the other village's children to have the same. He paused. I want my friends to be happy. I want Sasuke to find peace without burning himself to ash. I want the world to be a little less afraid tomorrow than it was today. The Hokage studied him. Decades of political navigation, of reading intent behind words, of sorting threats from allies, all of it brought to bear on this 12-year-old in an undersized chair. And if I asked you to serve as a weapon of the state, I would respectfully decline, Hokage-sama. I am a shinobi of this village. I serve its people. But I will never be pointed at another nation's civilians for strategic gain. A long silence, then the Hokage laughed. A real laugh, full-bodied, deep, the kind that made his bandaged ribs hurt, and he didn't care. Minato's son, he said, shaking his head. You have his conviction and your mother's stubbornness. Very well. Continue as you are. Grow, protect. He picked up his pipe, lit it. And Naruto? Yes, Hokage-sama? Thank you. For the invasion, for Sasuke, for everything you've done that never made it into a report. Naruto stood, bowed. It is my honor to serve, Hokage-sama. He left the office. The Hokage watched the door close and thought, for the first time in years, that the future might be brighter than the past. Sasuke woke on the 4th day. Naruto was there. Sitting in the visitor's chair beside the hospital bed, a book open in his lap. A history text about the Warring States period, his golden eyes resting on the page. Sasuke blinked. Ceiling, white, hospital smell. His body felt hollow. The curse mark was quiet. Quieter than it had been since the Forest of Death. The whispers were gone. The promises were gone. There was only silence where the mark's voice had been. He turned his head, saw Naruto, felt something twist in his chest that wasn't quite anger and wasn't quite gratitude. You stopped me, Sasuke said. His voice was hoarse. Yes, I would have left, would have gone to him. Yes, and you think you have the right to make that choice for me? Naruto closed his book, set it on the side table, looked at Sasuke with those golden eyes, patient, warm, unwavering. I think you are my teammate and my friend, Sasuke-san. And I think you were in pain, and the path you chose was one that would have ended in your destruction. You don't know that. I know Orochimaru, as much as any encounter can teach. I know what he wanted from you, your eyes, your body. Naruto leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I will never hold you prisoner. If you decide, with a clear mind and no curse mark whispering in your ear, that you must leave, then we will have that conversation. But what happened at the valley was the curse mark's choice as much as yours. Sasuke's jaw tightened. He stared at the ceiling. His hands gripped the blanket. The void, he said. That technique, it ate the mark's power. It consumed the active energy the mark was feeding you. The seal itself remains, but its influence is diminished. Can you remove it entirely? Naruto considered this. I believe so, if you wish it. Sasuke closed his eyes. A muscle in his cheek jumped. His breathing was uneven. I'll think about it. Take your time, Sasuke-san. Naruto stood, placed the history book on Sasuke's bedside table. A gift, left casually. He walked to the door. Naruto. He stopped, turned. Sasuke wasn't looking at him. His face was turned toward the window, and his voice was rough with something that might have been shame. Thank you. The words cost him. Naruto could hear that. He inclined his head, a small bow, respectful, recognizing the weight of what had just been offered. Always, Sasuke-san. He left. The hospital hallway was bright with afternoon sun. His footsteps echoed, heavy even, certain. A nurse passing with a tray of medication looked up at him and squeaked, pressing herself against the wall to let his massive frame pass. Excuse me, he said, ducking his head politely. She watched him go and thought absurdly, that is the kindest person I have ever seen. Summer turned toward autumn in Konoha. The reconstruction finished. Missions resumed. Team 7 ran C ranks and B ranks with a fluid efficiency that made other squads jealous. Sasuke's Sharingan and growing taijutsu skills covered the mid-range. Sakura's developing medical abilities handled support and intelligence, and Naruto was the guarantee, the unspoken promise that nothing would go wrong in a way that couldn't be fixed. The safety net so absolute that his teammates could take risks, could push themselves, could grow. Because the worst case scenario would always be intercepted by 6 feet and 4 inches of golden light and polite conversation. Sakura grew faster under that safety than she ever would have under fear. She asked Naruto to train her, specifically, to help her understand the principles behind his healing. He couldn't teach her reverse curse technique. It required cursed energy, which she lacked. But he could explain the theory, the concept of using positive force to reverse damage, and she applied those principles to her medical ninjutsu with results that made Tsunade across the continent feel a twinge of anticipatory pride. Sasuke trained harder than ever. Something had shifted in the valley. The curse-marked silence gave him room to think without poison in his ear, and what he found beneath the rage was still ambition, still the drive to kill Itachi, but tempered now by something else. By the proof, undeniable, burned into his retinas, that the greatest power he'd ever witnessed belonged to a boy who used it to help rather than destroy. He didn't admit this out loud. He barely admitted it internally. But when Naruto offered to spar one morning, full contact, though I will of course moderate my output, Sasuke-san, Sasuke said yes without hesitation. They sparred 3 times a week after that. Sasuke never won, never came close, but he got faster. His Sharingan matured, his taijutsu tightened. He learned to read Naruto's movements, all of them slower than the blonde's true capability, all of them educational rather than punishing, and adapted. "You are improving rapidly, Sasuke-san," Naruto said after one such session, offering a water bottle. "Shut up," Sasuke said. He took the water, drank, paused, then, so quiet it was almost inaudible, "Again, tomorrow." Of course, the world beyond Konoha turned. Akatsuki moved in shadows. Jiraiya, the Toad Sage, Naruto's by rights godfather and an absentee guardian, sent messages to the Hokage about dark cloaks and red clouds gathering. Orochimaru licked his wounds in underground bases and revised his plans, the phantom pain of broken bones still fresh enough to curb his ambitions in Naruto's direction. He thought about Dabura Karaba, about the warrior whose soul he carried, the Diskunta champion who had loved his people with the same fierce devotion that Naruto felt for his village, about how strange it was to be 2 people and 1 person at the same time, about how the past life's knowledge was a gift that he intended to use until the world was safer, or until his body gave out, whichever came last. The Kyuubi stirred in its seal. He felt it, had always felt it, the enormous, angry presence behind the gates. Someday he would address that too. Someday he would sit with the fox and offer the same thing he offered everyone: understanding, respect, and the patience to wait for acceptance. But tonight, the stars were enough. He leaned back on his palms. The rooftop concrete cracked faintly beneath his weight. The wind carried the scent of ramen from Ichiraku's late-night service, and below him the village glowed with lantern light, warm, alive, rebuilt and resilient. Home. It occurred to him that Dabura Karaba had never had this. A place that was his. A people who were slowly, grudgingly, beautifully learning to accept him. The Diskunta had been warriors without a homeland in their final days, fighting for survival rather than belonging. But here, in this life, Naruto had both. Power and a place to put it. Strength and something worth being strong for. He smiled. Small, private. The kind of smile that no one would ever see, and that was perfectly fine. Tomorrow there would be training, missions, rice balls from Konomaru, sparring with Sasuke, Sakura's questions about chakra theory, Kakashi's dry humor and the soft sound of turning pages. Tomorrow the world would keep turning, and Naruto Uzumaki, the reincarnation of the Diskunta's greatest warrior, the gentle giant with golden eyes and a voice like silk over steel, would be there to meet it, standing at the boundary between what was and what could be. Holding the line with hands that could break continents and a heart that refused to break at all. The retrieval team was promoted to Chunin the following month, all of them by special recommendation. Naruto received his flak jacket and wore it over his usual clothes, the standard issue vest straining across his shoulders in a way that made the quartermaster wince. "I am honored," Naruto said to Iruka, who delivered the promotion personally. Thank you, Iruka-sensei. Iruka looked up at his former student, way up, and felt tears prickling at his eyes. The boy he'd shared ramen with at 8 years old, small and lonely and fierce. Now this. You earned it, Iruka said. His voice cracked, just slightly. You earned all of it, Naruto. Naruto bowed, deep, formal, full of respect for the man who had been his first real connection to another human being. Everything I am, he said, began with your kindness, Iruka-sensei. I will never forget that. Iruka definitely cried. Naruto pretended he didn't see. They went for ramen, 8 bowls for Naruto, 2 for Iruka, and talked about nothing important until the stars came out and the world felt small and warm and good. Elsewhere, in a cave with 9 statues and flickering holograms, a man with ringed purple eyes spoke to assembled shadows. The 9 Tails Jinchuriki, report. Itachi's hologram flickered. His voice was flat, measured, giving nothing away. The target has demonstrated capabilities that exceed any known metric. My recommendation is caution. Caution? A larger hologram, shark-skinned, grinning. You're telling the leader of Akatsuki to be cautious about a 12-year-old? I am telling you, Itachi said, that the target broke Orochimaru in open combat, suppressed a tailed beast with a single technique, and moves at speeds that my Sharingan cannot follow based on available intelligence reports. Silence among the shadows. The ringed eyes narrowed. Interesting. We proceed as planned. But the 9 Tails extraction, it moves to last on the schedule. The holograms dimmed. The cave went silent. And somewhere in Konoha, eating ramen with his former teacher, Naruto Uzumaki felt a ghost of something at the edge of his awareness. A ripple in the world's energy, a gathering of intent, and filed it away. Whatever was coming, he would meet it the same way he met everything. Standing tall, eyes forward, golden light at his fingertips, and a polite word on his tongue. Because that was who he was. Who Dabura Karaba had always been, in every life. The one who stood between the innocent and the oncoming storm and said, with perfect composure, "You may proceed through me if you can." None of them could. The 8th bowl was half finished when the seal on Naruto's left wrist, a monitoring tag sewn into the lining of his flak jacket, something he'd identified and left alone because its signature had felt benign, went active. He felt it the way you feel a fly landing on your skin, a faint pulse, a signal broadcasting his exact position to whoever held the receiving end. He set his chopsticks down. Iruka-sensei. Please go home. Iruka looked at his former student's face and saw the golden eyes brighten, just a fraction, just enough to cast small shadows on the counter. The warmth in them was still there, but something behind it had sharpened, the way a blade sharpens when you run it across a stone. Naruto, what's... Go home. Lock your door. Do this for me. Iruka went. He was a Chunin who trusted his instincts, and his instincts said move now, ask later. He left money on the counter and was gone into the street at a pace that was almost running. Naruto sat alone at the ramen counter. Tochi had gone to the back to prep the next morning's stock. The street was empty, unusually so for this hour, and that absence had a shape to it, an architecture. Someone had cleared this block. He counted them before they moved. 14 root operatives on the surrounding rooftops, masked in blank porcelain, holding weapons treated with sealing compound. He could smell the ink on the blades from here. 2 more below the street in a tunnel that shouldn't have existed under this ward. And 1, heavier, older, radiating a chakra signature wrapped in bandages and bitterness, standing on the roof of the administrative building 4 blocks east. Danzo, the first operative, moved. A blade came down from directly above, aimed at the junction of Naruto's neck and shoulder, the sealing compound on its edge designed to create a barrier between his cursed energy and his physical body. The theory behind it was sound. Someone had studied him. Someone had watched the way his power moved through his frame and designed a countermeasure based on fragmentary understanding. The blade hit his shoulder. The sealing compound activated, spreading across his skin in black characters that tried to burrow inward, tried to create separation between flesh and energy. For 1/10 of a heartbeat, it worked. The cursed energy in his left arm flickered, stuttered, like a river hitting a dam. Then the dam broke. The characters burned away. The golden light that erupted from the point of contact was brief and absolute. The sealing compound, the blade, and the hand holding it all ceased to be distinguishable from each other. The root operative above him came apart at the molecular level from the elbow down, fell from the roof missing most of an arm, and hit the street already dying. Naruto stood from his stool. The wooden seat cracked beneath him as he rose. 14, he said to the empty street. His voice carried. I count 14 of you remaining, and one master. They came together this time, all of them. 14 operatives moving in perfect coordination, weapons drawn, sealing tags in their offhands, jutsu primed on their lips. They were Root, the best of the best in Konoha's shadow, trained from childhood to be weapons without identity or hesitation. Naruto exhaled. Golden light poured from his body, from his eyes, his hands, the edges of his frame, and he moved among them the way light moves through a prism, everywhere at once, touching everything, leaving nothing unchanged. His hands found bodies and broke them. His fingers found weapons and crushed them into powder. His presence found jutsu mid-formation and scattered the chakra before it could take shape. 2 seconds. 14 bodies hit the street in a radius around the ramen stand. Some were breathing. Most were not making sounds that suggested continued existence. The sealing tags they'd carried burned on the ground like small white candles, their purpose voided by the energy output that had just passed through this space. Naruto stood in the center of them. His flak jacket was gone. He'd torn it off mid-motion, the tracking seal inside it still pulsing its useless signal into the night air. Beneath it, his high-collared shirt was unmarked. His breathing was unchanged. He looked east, toward the administrative building, toward Danzo, and then he was there. The old man stood on the roof with 6 more Root at his back, his personal guard, the last line. His single visible eye found Naruto's golden ones across 30 feet of flat rooftop, and whatever Shimura Danzo had expected to see in that gaze, what he found there made his bandaged arm twitch beneath its wrappings. You are efficient, Danzo said. His voice held the rasp of age and something harder, conviction, the unshakable certainty of a man who has convinced himself that his worst actions serve a greater good. Faster than projected. The seal should have held for 30 seconds. That would have been enough. Enough for what, Danzo-san? Enough to bind you, to make you useful in the way this village requires. The old man's eye narrowed. You think the Third's kindness was free? You think they promoted you, celebrated you, because they believe in your good nature? The council voted on your termination 3 times this year alone. I argued for containment. I was the moderate voice in that room. The words hung in the air. Naruto stood absolutely still. His golden eyes held on Danzo's face with an intensity that made the old Warhawk's guards shift their stances. 3 times, Naruto repeated. The Hokage vetoed each one, but vetoes are temporary things. Hokages are temporary things. Danzo's hand moved beneath his bandages, subtle, practiced, reaching for whatever stolen arsenal he kept wrapped around that arm. I am offering you a final chance to be an asset rather than a liability, boy. Kneel. Accept the seal. Serve Konoha as its weapon and live. Naruto tilted his head. The motion was small. The change in his expression was smaller. Just a tightening around the eyes, a settling of the jaw, a door closing somewhere behind his gaze that had been open his entire life. I see, he said. Then you'll. I see that kindness is interpreted as compliance, that service is interpreted as submission, that strength given freely is seen as strength waiting to be chained. His hands remained at his sides. His posture remained open. His voice remained even, the same voice that said please and thank you and excuse me. I have been very foolish, Danzo-san. Danzo's eye twitched. Something about the tone had shifted. The warmth was there, the courtesy was there, but beneath it the foundation had changed from earth to iron. The seal, I decline. Danzo opened his mouth. His hand cleared the bandages. On his arm, hidden for years, 10 Sharingan eyes stared outward. Stolen from the Uchiha massacre, implanted in stolen flesh, a gallery of horrors worn as armor. His mouth formed a syllable, the beginning of Izanagi, the reality rewriting technique he'd prepared as his ultimate insurance. Naruto crossed the distance. The speed was beyond what Part 1 had ever shown. Past the flash, past the golden streak, past anything that light or sound could keep pace with. He existed at one point in space, and then he existed at another, and the space between those points simply did not have time to register his passage. His hand closed around Danzo's bandaged arm, around the stolen eyes, around the whole of the man's contingency plan. These were taken from people who deserved better, Naruto said. His grip tightened, the arm compressed, bones splintered. Sharingan eyes popped like overripe fruit beneath the pressure, vitreous fluid running between golden fingers. Danzo screamed, a sound pulled from somewhere below pride, below composure, from the animal place where pain lives without translation. Izanagi won't save you, Naruto continued, and his voice was still even, still patient, still the voice that said good morning and thank you. You need functional eyes for that technique. I have studied your contingencies, Danzo-san. You have been studied the way you studied me. He released the arm. It hung limp, destroyed, the stolen Sharingan extinguished, the arm itself a ruin of compressed bone and ruptured tissue. Danzo staggered backward. His remaining eye was wild with something beyond fear. Ambu. Danzo barked. The 6 root guards moved. Naruto raised his free hand, extended his palm toward them, the same gesture he'd used on Neji in the arena, the same open palm push. Light gathered. Cursed technique, sunburst. The roof became a sun. The light was contained. He shaped it, directed it, kept its radius to the exact space where the 6 guards stood. Within that radius, everything organic ceased. 6 bodies hit the ground as empty husks, their nervous systems overloaded, their cells flash-heated past survival thresholds, their weapons melting in their hands. Danzo fell backward. His single eye was seared, blinded by proximity, the cornea white burned. He landed on his back, armless in any meaningful sense, eyeless, screaming into the night sky. Naruto stood over him. You called me a monster before I gave you a reason to, he said. He placed his foot on Danzo's chest. The old man's ribs compressed, 1, 2, 3 cracks in sequence as the weight settled. Allow me to earn it. He pushed down. Danzo stopped screaming. The silence was wet and final. Naruto removed his foot, straightened his shirt where it had creased, looked out over the village, his village, the one he'd bled for, the one that had voted on his death 3 times in a single year while handing him mochi in the street. The golden light in his eyes burned steady, fixed. The ember that had always been there, warm, hopeful, patient, was still present. But the patience had a different quality now. The patience of a man who has finished waiting. He descended from the roof, walked through the streets of Konoha at a pace that was almost leisurely. The root bodies from the ramen stand were still where they'd fallen. A night patrol would find them within the hour. By morning, every person in the village would know what had happened. The Hokage Tower was his next stop. He walked through the front door. The night guards took one look at his golden eyes, at the blood on his right hand, at the expression on his face that was somehow still composed and somehow worse for it, and stepped aside. He climbed the stairs, pushed open the Hokage's office door. The 3rd was there, still working, always working, pipe in hand, reports stacked around him like a fortress made of paper. He looked up when Naruto entered. His old eyes moved from the boy's face to his hand to the set of his shoulders. Naruto, the Hokage's voice was careful. What has happened? Danzo is dead. 20 of his root operatives are dead or dying. His stolen Sharingan collection has been destroyed. Naruto stood in front of the desk, towering, golden-eyed, still with his hands loose at his sides. You vetoed my termination 3 times, Hokage-sama. I thank you for that. But I must ask, when would the 4th vote have come? The Hokage's pipe lowered. His face, ancient, weathered, carrying the weight of decades, went through something complex. Surprise, recognition, grief. Naruto, the council, voted on whether to kill me 3 times, while I rebuilt their walls, while I carried their lumber, while I stood between their families and a tailed beast. The golden eyes held steady. I am done being grateful for the privilege of living in a cage with open bars. Hiruzen Sarutobi set his pipe down. Slowly, he folded his hands on the desk. What do you want? The old man asked. The same question he'd asked weeks ago, but this time the answer would be different, and they both knew it. I want what I have always wanted, Hokage-sama. Peace, safety. A world where children are never afraid. Naruto's head inclined. A bow, formal, the same bow he'd always given. The difference is that I will stop asking permission to build it. And the village will be safe, will be protected, will never again have the luxury of choosing whether to point its weapons at its own children. He straightened from the bow. I am taking command, Hokage-sama. This is a courtesy notification given with respect for your years of service. The third looked at him for a long time. The office was silent, except for the clock on the wall and the faint sound of wind through the window. And if I refuse? The old man asked. His voice carried the weight of the question. The acknowledgement that his refusal meant combat, meant pitting himself against something he already knew he could never match. Then I will grieve, Naruto said, and you will still be removed from that chair. Hiruzen Sarutobi, the god of shinobi, the professor, the man who had mastered every jutsu in Konoha's library, closed his eyes, drew a breath, released it. I believe, he said, that I am too old for this seat regardless. He stood, removed the Hokage hat, set it on the desk between them. I will step aside, Naruto, because I know you, because I have watched you for 12 years, and I believe, even now, even with blood on your hand, that you mean what you say about protecting people. He walked to the door, paused with his hand on the frame. But Naruto? Yes, Hokage-sama? The others will come for you. Every village, every Kage, every force in this world that fears what you represent. When they do, remember that the people in their crosshairs are the ones you claim to protect. I will remember, Hokage-sama. The old man left. His footsteps faded down the hall, slow, even, the walk of a man setting down a burden that had been killing him by inches for decades. Naruto stood alone in the Hokage's office. He walked around the desk, looked at the hat, did not put it on. It was too small in every way that mattered. Instead, he sat in the chair, and the chair groaned beneath him, and he looked out the window at the village spread below. Golden lights from street lanterns, sleeping homes, the monument behind him with its carved faces. Below in the streets, people who had thrown stones at him, and people who had bowed to him, and people who had voted on his death while smiling at his morning greetings. He would protect all of them. That had never changed. That would never change. What changed was the terms. Morning came, and with it, news. The village woke to find Root's bodies being collected from the streets by regular Anbu who looked shaken and confused. They woke to find the Hokage Tower flying a different signal. The third's retirement announced through official channels before breakfast, his successor named in a scroll that bore Hiruzen's own seal. They woke to find Naruto Uzumaki sitting in the highest office in the land with his massive frame dwarfing the desk, and his golden eyes meeting every gaze that came through the door with the same steady composure they always held. The council protested. 3 civilian members and 2 shinobi elders arrived within the hour, faces red, mouths open, words about protocol and tradition and succession rites tumbling out in a flood. Naruto let them speak. He sat with his hands folded on the desk, Danzo's blood cleaned from his knuckles hours ago, and listened the way he always listened. Head slightly tilted, eyes attentive, full respect given to the speaker. When they finished, he spoke. Homura-san, Koharu-san. He addressed the shinobi elders by name. You sat in 3 separate sessions this year and cast votes regarding my elimination. I have the minutes from those meetings, recovered from Danzo's office along with extensive documentation of Root's activities over the past 2 decades. The blood drained from their faces. I forgive you, Naruto said. His voice was warm, his eyes were gold, his smile was small and polite and carried zero comfort. I am still going to finish this. 2 Anbu appeared at the council members' shoulders. Regular Anbu, wearing Konoha's standard masks, men and women who had seen the file Naruto had distributed overnight, who had read what Root had done in their name without their knowledge, and who had made their choices accordingly. The elders were escorted from the building. The civilian council members followed. Their protests echoed down the hallway and then faded. By noon, Konoha's administrative structure had been reorganized. The positions were the same: mission desk, logistics, the academy, hospital administration. But the chain of command ran to a single point. The Jonin commander reported to Naruto. The Anbu reported to Naruto. The gate guards, the patrol routes, the intelligence division, all of it flowed upward to a 12-year-old in an oversized chair who processed reports with the efficiency of someone who had governed in a previous life. Kakashi came to the tower at midday. He pushed the door open with his usual slouch, his usual orange book, his usual air of unconcerned observation. He stood in front of the desk and looked at Naruto. "So," Kakashi said, "this happened." "Good afternoon, Kakashi-sensei. You killed Danzo." "Yes." "Took command of the village overnight." "Yes." "The third just walked out?" "He made the choice I hoped he would make." Kakashi's visible eye studied his student's face, looking for something, the crack, the tell, the sign that this was rage rather than resolution. He found composure. He found certainty. He found the same face that had brought him coffee every morning and bowed to shopkeepers and carried Sasuke home on his shoulder. "The other villages will respond to this," Kakashi said. "A coup, even a bloodless one toward the top, it won't be seen as internal politics. They'll see opportunity or threat. Let them come or let them stay home. Either way, Konoha is safe under me. And us, Team 7, the shinobi you've been working alongside, you serve a leader who cares about you rather than one who is calculating your value as a weapon," Naruto said. "Your duties remain the same. Your autonomy remains the same. The only difference is that the orders come from someone who has never lied to you." Kakashi stood there for a long moment. His book hung forgotten in his hand. The clock ticked. "Ma," he said at last, "I've served worse." He tucked his book away, straightened, as much as Kakashi ever straightened. "What do you need?" "I need a list of every active intelligence operative we have embedded in other nations. I need the communications network Jiraiya built. And I need 3 days before anyone outside this village learns what has changed here." 3 days is a tall order. "I trust your creativity, Kakashi-sensei." Kakashi's eye creased, maybe a smile, maybe resignation, maybe both in equal measure. He turned and walked out. 3 days. Naruto used them. He restructured the village's defenses, not the physical walls, which were adequate, but the response protocols, the evacuation routes, the barriers that could be raised in seconds. He reviewed every active mission and recalled teams that were overextended. He met with each clan head individually, Shikaku Nara, who looked at him with something between admiration and wariness, Hiyashi Hyuga, who knelt without being asked, a gesture that carried the weight of the arena, of watching this boy demolish his nephew's worldview and then rebuild it. Tsume Inuzuka, Shibi Aburame, Inoichi Yamanaka, Choza Akimichi. One by one they came, they saw the golden eyes across the desk, and they made their calculations. Every one of them knelt. Konoha's shinobi clans had survived generations by recognizing power when it sat in front of them. On the second day, Sakura came. She didn't knock. Walked straight in. Her medical trainee badge still pinned to her vest, her green eyes wide and searching and afraid. "Is it true?" she asked. "All of it?" "Which part, Sakura-san?" "Danzo, the votes, the..." She swallowed. "You're in charge now? Permanently?" "Yes." She stood in the middle of the office and her hands trembled at her sides. Her lip did that thing it did, the slight tremble before she said something that cost her courage. "Are you still, you?" Naruto looked at her, at this girl who had watched him grow from impressive to impossible, who had buried her face in his chest after Orochimaru and said sorry afterward, who had asked, "What are you?" on a bridge and wave and accepted your teammate as a sufficient answer. "I am exactly who I have always been, Sakura-san. The only thing that has changed is my willingness to wait for others to do the right thing." She stood there, processed. Her hands stopped trembling. "What do you need from me?" "Continue your medical training. Your skills will be needed in the days ahead." She nodded, bowed, a quick, practical thing, more military than personal. Then at the door, "Naruto, yes? Be careful, please." He inclined his head. She left. On the third day, Sasuke came. He walked into the office with his hands in his pockets and his Sharingan already active. Whether from suspicion or habit, it was hard to tell. The curse mark on his neck was still dormant, still silenced by what Naruto's void had taken from it months ago. He looked at Naruto behind the desk, at the office, at the weight of what had changed. "You finally stopped pretending," Sasuke said. Naruto raised an eyebrow. "That you were like us," Sasuke clarified. "That you were just another genin, just another teammate, just another person in the system. You were never that. Everyone knew it. You knew it." He crossed his arms. "So what now? You rule Konoha, and then what? And then I ensure that strength is never again used to victimize the weak, here and beyond here. Beyond." Sasuke's eyes narrowed. "You're going after the other villages. I am going after every system that produces children like us, Sasuke-san. Children weaponized, children tortured, children discarded when they become inconvenient. Sasuke was silent for a long time. His Sharingan spun, reading Naruto's face for deception, finding nothing but the absolute golden-eyed certainty that had been there since they were 12 and sitting on that rooftop. Sasuke said. The name fell between them like a stone into still water. Akatsuki is first on my list. Then I'm coming with you. This will end in his death, Sasuke-san. I know. Sasuke's jaw was tight. His fists were tight. Everything about him was tight, with years of pain compressed into a single point of purpose. I know. Naruto studied his friend, his rival, his rescue, his most complex relationship in this life. Then he nodded. Stay in the village. Guard it while I am away. When the time comes for Itachi, I will send for you. Sasuke's mouth opened, protest forming, the old anger rising. I give you my word, Sasuke-san. The Uchiha closed his mouth, looked at Naruto, at the golden eyes that had never in all their time together broken a promise. Fine. He turned, walked out, paused. Don't get killed out there. I appreciate the concern. Shh. He was gone. On the fourth morning, Naruto left Konoha. He rose from the Hokage Tower at dawn, lifting into the air the way he always did, weightless, golden light trailing from his frame like a banner. The village below was waking, and those early risers who looked up saw their new leader ascending into the sky, heading east, moving at a speed that turned him into a streak of gold against the pink morning clouds. He left Kakashi in command, left Sakura as medical liaison, left Sasuke as the village's foremost defensive asset, left the restructured Anbu, the reorganized patrols, the fortified walls, left Konoha wrapped in his protection, even at a distance, because distance meant very little when you could cross a continent in the time it took most men to draw a breath. Akatsuki first, then everything else. He tracked them by their energy signatures. Cursed energy, once felt, remembered, and Naruto's perception extended further than any sensing technique the shinobi world had developed. He felt them scattered across the map like points of infection, clusters of malice, of ambition, of warped idealism that had curdled into something cancerous. Kasame Hoshigaki was in the land of water, standing thigh-deep in a river with Samahada across his back, fishing of all things, when the sky above him turned gold. Naruto descended, landed on the river's surface. His feet touched the water, and the water accepted him, holding him up through sheer force of cursed energy displacing his weight. He stood 40 feet from the tailless-tailed beast, golden eyes on the shark man's blue-gray skin. Kasame Hoshigaki. The swordsman turned, grinned, all teeth, all predator, the face of a man who loved violence the way artists love canvas. Oh, the nine-tails brat. You've gotten big, kid. Samahada pulsed on his back, its scales rippling with hunger. And your energy, Samahada likes it, wants to eat it. Your organization is being dissolved. I am offering you one chance to surrender and provide intelligence regarding your remaining members' locations. Kasame laughed. It was genuine, full body, chest deep. He pulled Samahada from his back and slammed its tip into the river. The water around them erupted, a dome forming, hundreds of tons of river water rising into a sphere that enclosed both of them. The water prison shark dance. His ultimate technique, the arena where he was strongest, where his massive chakra reserves gave him advantages even most Kage couldn't match. Inside the dome, Kasame's grin stretched wider. He merged with Samahada, the fusion technique, his skin going dark, his teeth sharpening, gills flaring, the sword becoming part of his arm. A monster of the deep, at home in his element. Let's see if you taste as good as you look, kid. He moved. Inside the water dome, Kasame was as fast as any jonin on land. Faster, his shark physiology giving him acceleration that belonged to something born in the ocean depths. He closed the distance in an eye blink, Samahada arm raised to consume Naruto's energy on contact. Naruto looked at the incoming shark man. Raised one hand, pressed two fingers together. Cursed technique, sunburst. The water dome turned white. Every drop of liquid within the technique's radius superheated instantaneously, past boiling, past steam, and that past any state that water was meant to achieve at standard pressure. The dome did not simply burst, it flash evaporated. 100,000 tons of water became a column of steam that rose 300 feet into the air and could be seen from the nearest town 15 miles away. Kasame, mid-charge, merged with his sword, surrounded by what should have been his greatest advantage, was caught in the center of the evaporation. His gills tried to breathe water that was already vapor. His scales tried to resist heat that exceeded anything the natural world produced. Samahata tried to absorb the energy and burst. The legendary blade's capacity exceeded in a single instant, its cells dying faster than they could consume when the steam cleared, rising into the sky in a pillar that caught the morning light like a monument. Kasame Hoshigaki lay on the dry riverbed. His fusion was undone. Samahata was a gray, shriveled husk beside him, its scales flat and lifeless. The swordsman's skin was burned across 90% of his body, his gills sealed shut by heat damage, his eyes open and staring at the sky. He was still breathing. Barely. "Your fight was well fought," Naruto said, standing over him. "It changes the outcome by exactly nothing." Kasame's ruined mouth twitched, tried to form a smile, managed half of one. "Good. Way to go," the shark man rasped. His remaining eye found Naruto's face. Better than old age. His breathing stopped. His eye went fixed. Naruto closed it with 2 fingers, stood, rose into the air, headed south. Hidan and Kakuzu were next. He found them in a border town between fire and wind, collecting a bounty. Hidan was in the middle of a ritual. A circle of blood, a fallen body, the Jashinist on his knees with his pike through his own chest and ecstasy on his face. Kakuzu stood at the town's edge counting bills, his 5 hearts beating in their independent rhythms. Naruto arrived above them like a second sun. "Akatsuki," he said, and both of them looked up. "Surrender is available for another 3 seconds. He then yanked the pike from his chest and pointed it skyward. "Another sacrifice, Jashin-sama will. 1. Kakuzu's threads erupted from his body, all 5 hearts releasing their elemental masks, fire and wind and lightning and water and earth converging on the golden figure above. 2. The combined assault reached him, fire that could melt iron, wind that could shear stone, lightning that could stop a heart across distance. All 5 elements, all launched by a ninja with centuries of combat experience. 3. Naruto did not dodge. He raised both hands, one toward each opponent, and from his right palm came golden light, and from his left came the void, sunburst, darkness. The golden light washed over Kakuzu's elemental attacks and unmade them. Fire consumed, wind stilled, lightning grounded, water evaporated, earth turned to dust. The light continued past the negated jutsu and hit Kakuzu himself, burning through his stitched body, through each heart in sequence. 5 explosions, small, internal, final. The ancient bounty hunter's body fell in pieces, each segment dark and still, all 5 hearts destroyed simultaneously. The void sphere reached Hidan at the same time. The Jashinist, immortal, unkillable, sustained by his god's blessing, watched the sphere of absolute emptiness approach and felt, for the first time in his existence, genuine fear. His immortality was a thing, an energy, a force that kept his cells from dying. The void ate energy, ate force, ate the concept of keeping from its sphere of influence. The darkness touched him, and his immortality ended. It was simple, instantaneous. One moment, Hidan was a creature that could survive anything. The next, the void consumed the divine energy that sustained him, and he was just a man with a pike through his chest and a circle of blood around his feet. He looked down, saw the blood leaving his body, actually leaving, actually mattering now. His eyes went wide. Wait, his body collapsed. Mortal, final. Naruto lowered his hands, descended to the street, looked at the 2 fallen Akatsuki members and the terrified civilians peering from windows and doorways. "This town is safe," he said to the nearest face in a window. "Please call your local authorities to handle the remains." He rose, continued south. Sasori was in his workshop in Wind Country. Deidara was with him, sculpting clay birds, complaining about art. Naruto came through the roof. "What the?" Deidara's hand mouths were already chewing clay, already forming. "Art is an explosion. Yeah, let me show you." He threw. Every prepared sculpture in his arsenal, C1, C2, C3, a cascade of clay constructs that filled the air between them and detonated in sequence. The explosions were massive. The workshop vanished. The surrounding dune for 100 meters in every direction became a crater of glass and fire. When the smoke cleared, Naruto stood in the center of the crater, untouched, his shirt slightly singed at the hem. The reverse curse technique had healed the minor heat damage before it could register as injury. Sasori emerged from the smoke in his true form. The puppet body, the cylinder of living flesh at its core, surrounded by the third Kazekage puppet and 100 more. Red hair, dead eyes, the patience of something that had replaced its humanity with craftsmanship. Interesting, Sasori said. You survived Deidara's full arsenal. That's impressive. Where is Deidara? Naruto asked. Sasori glanced to the side. The blonde bomber lay in the crater, blown by his own explosion's shockwave when Naruto's presence disrupted the blast pattern, knocked unconscious, one arm twisted wrong. Irrelevant, Sasori said. I presume you've come for information or death. Both are acceptable outcomes. Sasori attacked. 100 puppets, each one armed, each one poisoned, each one guided by chakra strings with the dexterity of a grandmaster. They came from every angle, blades and needles and streams of poison gas. The iron sand of the third Kazekage formed into shapes, cubes, pyramids, crushing waves that converged on Naruto's position. Naruto extended his hand. Golden light gathered at his fingertip, concentrated, focused, a beam rather than a wave. He drew his finger across the air in a single horizontal line. The beam cut through everything in its path. Every puppet, every chakra string, the iron sand formations, the air itself, which split and rushed to fill the vacuum with a thunderclap that flattened the remaining dunes for half a mile. The beam crossed Sasori's puppet body at chest height and severed the cylinder containing his heart core. The puppet master's body split in two and fell. The cylinder, cracked, leaking preservation fluid, rolled to a stop at Naruto's feet. You are very skilled, Naruto said to the dying core. Your art deserved a better cause. Sasori's eyes, the only organic thing left, blinked once, then closed. Naruto turned to Deidara. The bomber was unconscious, alive, but unlikely to remain relevant. He pressed a palm to the man's chest and ran a pulse of energy through his system that burned the clay reserves from his body, destroyed the hand mouths at the cellular level, and sealed the tenketsu responsible for his sculpting techniques. Deidara would live. Without his art, he was merely a man. Naruto left him there and rose into the sky. Konan was in Amegakure, the city of endless rain, steel towers and rusted bridges, and water falling from a sky that had been crying since Hanzo's reign. The village was a monument to suffering, its people gray and thin, its infrastructure held together by hope and the religious devotion they felt toward their leader. Naruto descended through the rain. The water parted around his golden aura, each drop deflecting before it reached his skin, creating a column of dryness in the downpour. He landed on a bridge and stood. You are here for him, a voice said from everywhere. Paper, thousands of sheets forming from the rain itself, assembling into a woman's shape. Blue hair, amber eyes, an origami flower in her hair. Konan stepped into existence on the far end of the bridge, paper wings folding behind her. For pain, Naruto confirmed, and for you, Konan-san, if you choose to stand in the way. I stand wherever Nagato needs me to stand. Then please tell me where he is. Her face, composed, beautiful, grieving something that had been grieving for decades, showed nothing. Her paper wings spread wider. The sheets multiplied, darkened, each one becoming an explosive tag in disguise. 600 billion paper bombs, according to her own calculations, enough to erase a lake, a mountain, a small country. You'll have to go through me. Naruto looked at her, at the devotion written in every line of her body, at the love that had turned itself into paper wings and explosive devotion for a friend she refused to leave behind. I would prefer a path that keeps you alive, Konan-san. There is none. The bridge vanished. The section of city around them vanished. A column of fire and pressure rose into the sky that turned the eternal rain to steam for a quarter mile. The explosion lasted 10 full seconds. 600 billion tags discharging their payload in a cascade designed to leave nothing, absolutely nothing, in its center. When it ended, when the steam cleared and the rain reasserted itself over a crater where a city block had been, Naruto stood in the air above the destruction. His golden aura was brighter than before, pushed to a higher output to weather the assault. His clothes were gone from the waist up, his torso bare, the massive musculature on full display, the skin glowing with residual cursed energy as it healed minor burns in real time. Below in the crater, pieces of paper drifted, reforming. Konan's body reassembled itself. She could survive her own technique, split into paper and reconstitute. She stood in the rain looking up at him, and her face showed the first crack. "You're undamaged. Conan-san." He descended, landed in front of her, his frame dwarfing hers, his golden eyes level with the origami flower in her hair. "I respect your devotion. I respect the love that drives it. Please take me to Nagato." Her paper wings flickered. Her hands trembled, forming tags, reforming wings, caught between another attack and the futility of repetition. "If I do," she said, "what happens to him? If he fights, he dies. If he surrenders and provides the tailed beast his organization has collected, he lives." "He'll fight. I know." She stood in the rain. The paper wings dissolved. Her hands fell to her sides. "The tower," she said, "the tallest one. He's at the top." Naruto inclined his head, a bow, respectful, recognizing what that betrayal cost her. "Thank you. Please remain here." He rose toward the tower. Pain waited in the chamber at its peak. The real body, Nagato, withered and plugged into a machine that looked like a throne made of needles. The 6 paths of pain stood around him in a semicircle. The Deva path, the Asura path, the human path, the animal path, the Preta path, the Naraka path. 6 corpses wearing ringed purple eyes, each one a weapon capable of leveling a village. "You've come," the Deva path said. Yako's face, Yako's voice, filtered through Nagato's will. "The golden child, the weapon that Konoha birthed and couldn't control." "I am here to end Akatsuki," Naruto said. He stood in the doorway, filling it entirely, his bare torso still gleaming with residual energy, his golden eyes meeting the Rinnegan across the room. "Your extracted tailed beasts, where are they stored?" "You want the beasts? I want every weapon you've gathered removed from play. The beasts, the statue, the infrastructure." Pain, all 6 of them, regarded him with those ringed eyes. Nagato behind them spoke through the Deva path with the measured tone of a man who believed in his own divinity. "I was going to use those weapons to create peace. True peace, the kind born from shared suffering, the kind where every nation knows what it means to lose everything and chooses never again. Peace through apocalypse, peace through understanding. I offered the world peace once," Naruto said. "I will not offer it twice. Your method is obsolete. Surrender the beasts and the statue and live to see what real peace looks like." The Deva path's expression shifted, the ghost of Yahiko's idealism turning to contempt on a dead man's face. "You presume to know peace better than a god? You presume to be a god," Naruto said. "You are a man in a chair, controlling corpses. That is not divine, that is puppetry." The 6 paths attacked, the Asura path opened first, mechanical arms deploying, missiles launching, the full arsenal of a body rebuilt for destruction. The animal path summoned, a dozen beasts materializing in the confined space, filling the chamber with scale and claw. The Preta path surged forward, its absorption technique active. Attempting to drain Naruto's energy on contact, Naruto raised his hand. Zenith of the dawn. The domain expansion bloomed from his palm, golden light swelling outward, filling the chamber, extending through the walls, through the ceiling, through the floor. Within the sphere, hostile intent found purchase on nothing. The missiles deactivated mid-flight. The summoned beasts froze, unable to attack, unable to do anything but stand in golden warmth and feel their aggression dissolve. The Preta path's absorption technique reached the domain's edge and reversed. Instead of pulling energy in, it pushed its own reserves out, hemorrhaging chakra into the golden light until the body went limp and collapsed. The Asura path fell apart. The mechanical components that allowed it to function required violent output, force, pressure, detonation. And inside the zenith, violence could gain purchase on nothing. Its joints released, its weapons disarmed. It stood for a moment like a statue, then toppled. The animal path's summons poofed away, unable to maintain aggression-based combat contracts within the domain. The human path, which required hostile contact to extract souls, found its hands unable to close with force. The Naraka path, which relied on judgment and punishment, found those concepts voided within the sphere. Only the Deva path remained standing. The Rinnegan's gravity manipulation, Shinra Tensei, Bansho Tenin, operated on physics rather than intent. Attraction and repulsion were neutral forces. They functioned within the domain. The Deva path raised its hand, Shinra Tensei. The gravity wave hit Naruto and pushed enormous force, the same technique that had leveled villages in canon, unleashed at point-blank range within a golden sphere of peace. Naruto slid backwards 6 inches. His feet left tracks on the floor. His body absorbed the force, cursed energy reinforcing every cell, every bone, every inch of tissue until he was denser than the earth beneath him. 6 inches. The technique that could flatten a city moved him 6 inches. He stepped forward, against the repulsive force, into it. The Deva path pushed again, consecutive bursts, the 5-second cooldown abandoned through sheer desperation. Gravity slammed into Naruto over and over, and he walked through it the way a man walks against strong wind. 1 step, 2, 3. He reached the Deva path. His hand closed on its face, Yahiko's face, dead and used and desecrated by years of puppetry. His grip tightened. "Rest now," Naruto said. "Your friend's face has been a mask long enough." He crushed the skull. The Deva path fell. Behind the 6 fallen bodies, Nagato remained. The withered man in his throne of needles, red hair dulled, body atrophied, Rinnegan eyes wide, and a face that had been dying for years. "You," Nagato breathed. "You ended all 6 without effort? I would say it required attention, Nagato-san. Your abilities are impressive. You could have done this at any time, could have dismantled us years ago. I was asked to wait. I was told the system would work. I was told that kindness and patience and service would be enough." Naruto's golden eyes held on the dying man's ringed ones. They lied. Nagato stared at him, and then something cracked in the Rinnegan wielder's face. Something that might have been recognition, understanding, the look of one revolutionary seeing another and realizing they'd been building toward the same conclusion from different sides of the same broken world. "The statue," Nagato said. His voice was thin. "Beneath this tower, sub-level 9, the beasts are sealed inside it. And you? I am dying regardless. This body has been running on borrowed time for years." His ringed eyes closed, then opened, and in them, something almost like peace. "Will your world be better than the one I planned?" "It will be real," Naruto said. "That is more than yours could ever have been." Nato nodded. Once, and then the light in his Rinnegan faded, and Shimura Nagato, the last student of Jiraiya, the would-be god of peace through pain, died in his chair with his eyes open and his mouth set in the thinnest smile. Naruto stood in the chamber surrounded by 7 bodies and the distant sound of rain. He looked down at Nagato. "You were right about one thing," he said to the dead man. "The world does need a hand on the wheel." He descended to sub-level 9, found the Ghetto statue, the husk of the 10 tails, monstrous and eyeless, containing the chakra of 7 captured tailed beasts. He placed his palm against its surface and felt the contained energies within. Enormous, alien, raging against their prison. He would deal with them later. For now, the statue was his. Konan was waiting outside the tower. Standing in the rain, paper wings folded, her face unreadable. "He's gone," she said. It wasn't a question. He passed in peace. She was silent for a long time. The rain fell between them. "What happens to Omega-Kure?" she asked. "It falls under my protection, as will everything else in time." "And me?" "You are free, Konan-san. Grieve, rebuild. This city needs someone who loves it." She looked at him, at the bare-chested giant standing in a column of dryness amid the downpour, golden eyes holding hers with something that was still despite everything kind. "You're going to rule the world," she said. "I'm going to fix it." Is there a difference? He considered this. Perhaps not, but the intent matters to me, even if it matters to no one else. He rose into the sky, left Konan standing in her city's rain with 7 bodies in the tower above and the weight of new allegiances settling onto her shoulders. 1 Akatsuki member remained that mattered. 2, actually. Itachi Uchiha was in a safe house on the border of Fire Country. Alone, his partner dead, his organization falling around him, his diseased body deteriorating with every passing week. He sat in a wooden chair by a window and watched the sunset with eyes that could barely see anymore, the Mangekyo Sharingan having eaten away at his vision over years of use. He felt Naruto arrive before the golden light appeared, felt the pressure, that immense, unavoidable weight that pressed against the boundaries of a room and made everything in it acknowledge a greater force. "Itachi Uchiha," Naruto said from the doorway. His voice filled the small room the way sunlight fills a space when the curtains are pulled. "Naruto-kun." Itachi's voice was composed, thin, carrying the exhaustion of a man who had been waiting for an ending. "You're earlier than I calculated. Your calculations assumed Akatsuki would resist in sequence. Most of them did resist, briefly. And Kasame, dead. Itachi closed his eyes. A micro-expression, grief, acceptance, the acknowledgement of a loss that had been inevitable. I see. He coughed. Blood spotted his lips. You've come for me then. I have come for a conversation first. Naruto entered the room. Had to duck through the doorway, had to angle his shoulders. He stood in a small space and made it feel like a cupboard. You are a double agent. You have been since the massacre. Your loyalty was always to Konoha, to its people, if not its leadership. Itachi's eyes opened. The Mangekyo spun, tired, decaying, a weapon using the last of its ammunition. You know. I know everything. Danzo's orders, the coup attempt, the choice you were given, your clan or your village. Your brother spared as your only condition. Naruto's golden eyes held Itachi's fading red ones. I am sorry for what was done to you, and I am sorry for what I must tell you next. Sasuke, he is alive. He is in Konoha. He is under my command. Naruto's voice shifted, the warmth receding just enough to reveal the steel beneath, the way it had begun doing with everyone since the turn. I gave him my word that he would be present for your death. I intend to honor that promise, though the circumstances have changed from what he imagined. Itachi studied Naruto's face. The Sharingan, legendary for its ability to read expression, intent, the subtlest shift of micromusculature, found what it always found in this boy: absolute certainty, unshakable resolve. The face of someone who has moved past doubt. You've taken control, Itachi said. Konoha, and now Akatsuki's remnants. The world is next, Itachi-san. And you believe this is right. I believe it is necessary. The alternative is what was done to you. A good man forced to murder his family because the systems above him were rotten. I am removing the rot. Itachi was silent. His breathing was wet, the disease in his lungs audible in every inhale. He looked at the sunset through the window, looked at the golden-eyed giant who had ended an organization in a matter of days. Will Sasuke be safe? As long as he does not raise a weapon against me. And if he does? Naruto held Itachi's gaze, said nothing. The silence was answer enough. Itachi closed his eyes again. His hands, resting on the arms of the chair, relaxed. The Mangekyo faded from his irises, leaving simple black. I am dying regardless, he said. The disease will take me within months. I had planned a final fight with Sasuke, something that would push him to his limits and allow him to feel he'd achieved his goal, free him from the hatred. A noble deception, a desperate one. He opened his eyes. You offer him something I never could, proof that power does not require suffering to achieve. If he learns that lesson, my death will mean more than I ever planned for it. Then let it be meaningful, Itachi-san. How? Tell him the truth. Before you die, let him know that you loved him, that everything you did was love wearing the mask of hatred. Let him rage, let him grieve, and then let him choose who he becomes next. Itachi's face did something it rarely did. It cracked. The mask of composure that had held for 8 years slipped, and beneath it was a 21-year-old who was exhausted and dying and missed his little brother with a desperation that made his vision blur. You'll let me see him? I will bring him to you. Itachi nodded. His hands were shaking. Naruto sent the message to Konoha that evening. Sasuke arrived by the following dawn, moving at full speed through the night, the Sharingan lighting his path, the years of hatred propelling him forward. What happened in that safe house between the brothers was something Naruto did not witness. He stood outside under the morning sky and heard muffled voices, first rage, then anguish, then a silence that stretched for an hour. When it ended, Sasuke came out with red eyes and wet cheeks, and a face that had been demolished and rebuilt in the space of a conversation. Behind him, in the safe house, Itachi Uchiha was gone. The disease had taken him in those final hours, his body giving out at last, released by the weight of confession, lightened enough to leave. Sasuke said nothing. He walked past Naruto into the trees, and Naruto let him go. Some distances could still only be crossed alone. The last member of Akatsuki found him. Obito Uchiha, masked, calling himself Tobi, calling himself Madara, the true architect of the organization's grand design, materialized from a swirl of space-time in front of Naruto 3 days later. The orange mask, the single Mangekyo visible through its hole, the casual posture of a man who believed himself untouchable. So you've dismantled my organization, Obito said. His voice had dropped the Toyact entirely, the real voice, Obito's voice, bitter and hollow and lined with years of disillusionment. Impressive work, days where it should have taken years. You are the last, Obito Uchiha. The masked man stiffened. That name is yours. Kakashi's teammate, the boy who was buried under a rockfall in the Third War and survived through transplanted Hashirama cells and Madara Uchiha's intervention. Naruto stood in a clearing. Pine trees, mountain air, the border of 3 nations meeting at this point. His golden eyes regarded the masked figure without surprise. I have known who you were since I felt your energy signature during the Kyuubi attack's anniversary. The residue of your Kamui lingers in Konoha's memorial stone. Obito was still. Then his hand went to his mask and pulled it away. Beneath it, half a face scarred, half smooth, one sharing and spinning. The expression of a man who had spent 15 years in despair and called it purpose. Then you know what I want, Obito said. The infinite Tsukuyomi. A world of dreams where nothing hurts because nothing is real. A mercy, a surrender. Obito's Sharingan blazed. You think you can judge me? You with your power, you've never lost everything. You've never watched the person you love die while you stood helpless. I watched the village I served vote on my execution while I rebuilt their homes, Naruto said. I watched a man in a flak jacket hand me a promotion with one hand while signing my death warrant with the other. I have been alone since the day I was born in this life. His golden eyes didn't waver. I earned the right to be angry, Obito. The difference between us is that I turned my anger outward toward the systems that created it. You turned yours into a blanket to hide the world under. Obito's face twisted. His Manjikyo spun faster, Kamui activating, space warping around him. The technique that made him untouchable, intangibility. The ability to exist in 2 dimensions simultaneously, allowing all attacks to pass through him as if he were made of smoke. You can't touch me, Obito said. Kamui is absolute. Nothing is absolute against the zenith. Obito launched himself forward, not attacking, testing. He phased through a tree, through the ground, emerged behind Naruto with a chain wrapped around his wrist and swung it at the blonde's neck. Naruto caught the chain without turning around. Felt it, solid, real. Obito was tangible when attacking. The old weakness. The exploitable gap? But he didn't need the gap. Domain expansion. Zenith of the dawn. The golden sphere bloomed outward, and this time, Naruto shaped it with a specificity that went beyond what he'd shown before. The Zenith's rule was simple. Within its radius, hostile intent could gain purchase on nothing. But Kamui was not strictly hostile. It was evasive. A technique of retreat and repositioning. The domain adapted. Because a domain was not a fixed rule, it was a will, a worldview, imposed on reality through absolute strength of self. And Naruto's will was simple. Within this space, nothing operates outside my awareness. Nothing hides. Nothing phases. Nothing exists in a state I do not permit. Kamui flickered. Died. Obito's intangibility, his safety net, his untouchable armor, the technique that had kept him alive for 15 years against everything the shinobi world could throw at him, simply stopped working. He tried to phase. His body remained solid. He tried to warp. The dimension refused to open. Impossible. His voice cracked. Kamui is a dimensional technique. It operates outside this. You are inside my domain, Naruto said. He turned to face the masked man, former masked man, his face bare and stricken. Nothing operates outside anything while you stand here. Obito's Sharingan spun, desperately, the eye straining, trying to force the technique through sheer willpower. It accomplished nothing. He stood in the golden light, fully solid, fully vulnerable, and the 15 years of invincibility peeled away in a single moment. He attacked anyway. Because Obito, whatever else he was, however far he'd fallen, had been trained by Minato Namikaze, had survived a war, had fought against the Fourth himself. He was a warrior, and warriors without retreat fight to the end. His taijutsu was Jonin level. His fire release was devastating. His Manjikyo could still cast Kamui outside the domain's boundaries, if he could get outside. He burned and slashed and threw everything he had at the golden giant standing in the center of light. Naruto took every blow. Fire washed over his torso and blackened the skin, kunai embedded in his forearms, chains wrapped around his neck. He stood and accepted it all, and the reverse curse technique healed each injury before the next one landed. A perpetual cycle of damage and renewal that made Obito's assault feel like rain against a mountainside. When the Uchiha's chakra reserves dipped, 30 seconds, maybe 40, of sustained maximum output against an opponent who simply refused to acknowledge damage, Naruto moved one step. His hand found Obito's throat, lifted the man off the ground. Obito dangled. His hands gripped Naruto's wrist, enormous, immovable, warm with golden light. His feet kicked air. His Sharingan met Naruto's eyes from 6 inches away. "I'll see, Rin," Obito whispered. It was not a question. It was the only hope he had left, that death meant reunion. "I believe you will," Naruto said. His hand closed. The Manjikyo Sharingan went dark. The body went limp. Naruto set it down on the forest floor with the same care he'd shown Zabuza years ago, positioning the arms, closing the eyes, straightening the limbs. "Kakashi-sensei will want to know," Naruto said to the body. "I will tell him you died thinking of her." The domain dissolved. The golden light folded inward and vanished. The forest was silent, except for wind and the sound of a body that had stopped being anything but empty. Akatsuki was finished. Every member dead or neutralized. The Gedo statue under his control. The tailed beast chakras sealed within it, waiting to be addressed on his terms. Naruto stood in the clearing and let the wind touch his face. Then he rose into the sky and headed home. The 3 days of concealment were over by the time he returned. News had leaked. Of course it had, because news always leaks. Because shinobi villages are made of walls with ears. The other great nations knew. Konoha's leadership had changed. The Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, the Golden Boy, the one from the Chunin exam stories, the one who broke a legendary sword with his forearm, had overthrown the Hokage and taken command. Reactions varied. Suna sent a diplomatic inquiry, cautious, deferential, remembering what Naruto had done for Gaara and hoping it bought them goodwill. Kumo sent a threat. Iwa sent silence. Kiri sent nothing at all. Still too consumed by internal recovery to engage with external politics, Naruto responded to each with the same message, written in his own hand, sealed with his own energy signature. "I am reorganizing the shinobi system. Those who join peacefully will be treated as partners. Those who resist will be treated as obstacles. There is no third option. Naruto Uzumaki, Sovereign of Fire." The word sovereign sent ripples through every intelligence network on the continent. Sovereign was not Hokage. Hokage was a military leader, a village chief, a first among equals in a council structure. Sovereign was something else entirely. Sovereign meant no council. Sovereign meant absolute. Sovereign meant king. The 5 Kaja summit was called within a week. Gaara, the Kazakaja now young and serious, and carrying the weight of a village that had tried to assassinate him as a child, received his invitation and held it in both hands. He stared at the seal on the scroll. Naruto's seal. The same energy signature that had wrapped around him in golden light and pulled him from the beast's control and whispered, "You are wanted." He thought about what he owed. He thought about what duty required. He thought about the people of Suna, who looked to him for protection. He went to the summit with his siblings at his flanks and the weight of impossible choices on his shoulders. The Raikage, massive and furious, his Raiton armor crackling at the mere mention of conquest, broke his desk when he read the invitation. He mobilized his entire standing army within the hour. The Tsuchikage, Onoki, ancient and bitter and carrying memories of 3 wars, said another one, and began calculating military responses with the detachment of a man who had survived everything the shinobi world could produce. The Mizukage, Mei Terumi, newly installed after Kiri's bloodline purges, still building her village from the ashes of civil war, read the scroll and felt the exhaustion of a woman asked to fight another war before the last one's wounds had healed. The summit took place in the land of iron, neutral ground, samurai territory. The 5 Kage gathered around a curved table, Gaara for wind, A for lightning, Onoki for earth, Mei for water. The seat for fire was empty. Naruto had declined to attend in person. Instead, a scroll sat on the table, sealed with his golden energy, containing his terms. Mifune, the samurai general hosting, broke the seal and read them aloud. Unification of the 5 great nations under a single governing authority. Dissolution of the hidden village system. Cessation of all Jinchuriki weaponization programs. establishment of a single standing military, defensive in nature, under Naruto's direct command, amnesty for all who accepted these terms, annihilation for all who refused. The Raikage's fist hit the table before Mifune finished reading. This is a declaration of war. This is a declaration of intent, Gaara said. His voice was forced even, his hands tight beneath the table where others couldn't see. He's telling us what's coming whether we agree or... He's a child! A roared. A 12-year-old genin from a backwater village thinks he can dictate terms to the 5 great nations? He dismantled Akatsuki alone, Onoki said. The old Tsuchikage's voice was dry, tired. In days, an organization that 3 villages combined couldn't contain in a decade. He dissolved their tailed beast collection. He holds the Gedo statue. He possesses power that exceeds anything in our combined histories. I refuse to bend the knee to a child. Osukuma will fight, as will Iwa, Onoki said. I've survived 3 wars. I'll survive this. Kiri stands with the Alliance, Mei said. Her voice was heavy. We've barely recovered, but we'll stand. All eyes turned to Gaara. The young Kazekage sat with his hands on the table. Sand particles drifted around him, the automatic defense responding to stress, to the war of loyalties raging behind his composure. He saved my life, Gaara said. He caught me when I fell from a tailed beast's control and asked nothing in return. He told my sister to show me kindness. His jade eyes were steady. He is also asking me to dissolve my village's sovereignty, to submit my people to his authority without their consent. So, I demanded, so I owe him my soul, and I owe my people their freedom. Gaara's hands clenched. Suna stands with the Alliance. The allied shinobi forces mobilized within the month. Every village, every standing army, every special operations division, every seal master, every remaining Jinchuriki. The 2 tails, the 8 tails, both deployed as weapons of last resort, their hosts prepared for full transformation. 100,000 shinobi assembled on the plains of the Land of Lightning, the largest military force the continent had ever produced in a single location. Naruto received word of the mobilization through his intelligence networks. Konan in Omegakure, loyal now. Kakashi's restructured Anbu, the standard intelligence apparatus of a village that had suddenly become the most dangerous entity in the world. He did not mobilize Konoha's forces in response. He went alone. The allied forces saw him coming from a distance. The sensors felt him first. An energy signature so massive that several of them collapsed from the pressure of merely perceiving it at range. Then the shinobi with enhanced vision, the Hyuga, the Uchiha, Sasuke, who had come despite everything, who stood in the Alliance's ranks because the alternative was standing nowhere at all, saw the golden streak crossing the sky. 1 man. Against 100,000, Naruto descended to the plains a mile ahead of the allied formation. He landed without sound, without flourish. His feet touched grass, and the grass beneath him bent outward in a perfect circle, pressed flat by the weight of his presence. He stood, 6'4", 230 pounds, golden eyes burning with the steady light that had become his signature, and looked across the distance at the army arrayed against him. 100,000 faces looked back. In the command position, the Raikage stood at the head of his forces with his Raiton armor blazing blue-white. His brother Killer Bee, the 8 tails Jinchuriki, stood beside him in full-tailed beast cloak, 8 octopus tails of red chakra waving behind him. Gaara hovered on a platform of sand at the center of the formation, his gourd emptied, the surrounding earth already responding to his command. Onoki floated above the army, hands together, the dust-release particle-style Kekkei Genkai ready. Mei stood with her guard, lava already forming at her lips. And through the ranks, 100,000 individuals, each one trained, each one committed, each one told that this single person represented an existential threat that justified everything they were about to do. Naruto looked at them, all of them. His golden eyes swept the formation from end to end, taking in the faces, the weapons, the fear that lived behind the courage. These were people. Fathers and mothers and children become soldiers, people who had been told that a boy from Konoha wanted to take their freedom, and who had picked up weapons to defend it. He understood them, respected them, would kill every last one of them if they did not yield. I addressed the allied shinobi forces, Naruto said. His voice carried, amplified by cursed energy, reaching every ear across the mile-wide formation with perfect clarity. I am Naruto Uzumaki. You know what I am. You know what I have done. I did not come here seeking war. The silence that followed was absolute, 100,000 people holding their breath. I came seeking an end to the system that made war inevitable, the system that tortured children into weapons, that turned villages into factories of death, that created people like me, and people like Gaara, and people like Killer Bee, and people like every Jinchuriki who was sealed against their will and called a tool rather than a person. His voice was even. His tone was warm. That ancient, deep warmth that made him sound like a feudal lord addressing his people, but beneath it, the steel. I offered peace. Your leaders chose war. I honor their choice. He raised his right hand. Golden light gathered at his fingertips. Building, growing, the beginning of something that made the nearest sensors scream and grab their heads. Kneel and keep your name. Fight and lose everything. The front lines wavered. Individuals in the mass, Jinin, Chunin, people who had never faced an S-rank threat and certainly had never faced something beyond that classification, felt their courage crumble against the pressure emanating from a single extended hand. Hold! The Raikage roared from the back. His Raiton armor surged brighter. He's one man! One man against the entire shinobi world. Attack! The army charged, 100,000 shinobi surging forward, a tide of humanity, weapons drawn, jutsu forming, the earth shaking beneath their combined footsteps. Fire techniques filled the air. Water dragons rose from carried supplies. Lightning arcs between formations. Wind blades launched in coordinated barrages. Every element, every technique, every school of combat the five nations had ever produced, all of it aimed at a single golden point on the plains. Naruto looked at the approaching wave. Domain expansion. Zenith of the dawn. The golden sphere erupted. It expanded faster than it ever had before, faster than the army's charge, faster than the jutsu in the air, faster than the commands being shouted from the rear. The sphere swallowed the front lines, then the mid-ranks, then the artillery formations, then the command elements. A mile-wide army vanished into golden light in the space of a heartbeat. Inside the domain, the rule held. Hostile intent could gain purchase on nothing. 100,000 weapons dropped from 100,000 hands, released involuntarily as the will to harm dissipated from every muscle. Jutsu already formed unraveled mid-execution. Fire going cold, water going flat, lightning grounding itself harmlessly into the earth. 100,000 bodies lost their forward momentum and stood, swaying, in a field of golden warmth where the concept of violence had been removed from the available options. The rank and file, Jinin and Chunin, and the everyday shinobi who made up the bulk of any army, simply stopped. They stood in the golden light and felt peace. Forced peace, imposed peace. Peace that came from outside rather than within. And their bodies could find nothing to do but accept it. The Kaj resisted. Resisted. His Raiton armor, raw energy, neutral in its nature the way Nagato's gravity had been, still functioned within the domain. He pushed forward through the golden light, massive and furious, lightning coursing over his frame in sheets of blue-white fury. I won't kneel, he roared. To anyone. He crossed the distance to Naruto in 3 seconds. The Raikage's legendary speed, third fastest living shinobi, moving through a field of imposed peace through sheer force of will. His fist cocked back. The Raiton concentrated into his right arm until the limb glowed brighter than the domain around it. Liger bomb. The fist drove forward. Naruto caught it. One hand, his left, open-palmed, accepted the Raikage's full force punch the way a net accepts a thrown ball. The impact created a shockwave that flattened every standing body within 30 meters. The Raikage's arm compressed, his own strength rebounding against an immovable object, the force traveling back up through his skeleton. Bones cracked in his forearm. His shoulder popped from its socket. His Raiton armor flickered and died, overwhelmed by the golden energy radiating from the hand that held his fist. His eyes went wide. He'd punched through mountains. He'd traded blows with the yellow flash and survived. He'd been the strongest man alive by his own reckoning for 20 years. His fist was held in the palm of a boy who looked at him with golden eyes and said, "You fight beautifully, Raikage-sama." Naruto's right hand came forward, open, palm flat, a touch, gentle, measured, against the Raikage's chest. The burst of light that followed was brief. A's body went rigid, his nerves overwhelmed, his massive frame lifting off the ground for a moment before crashing to the earth. Out, gone. The fastest Kage, done in a single exchange. He was alive. Naruto had chosen to leave him alive, unconscious, damaged, stripped of his armor, but breathing. The choice was intentional, calculated in a way he would never describe as such. The Raikage's will was pure, a man defending his people, his village, his pride. Naruto respected that. But respect didn't mean tolerance. Killer Bee came next. The Eight-Tails Jinchuriki had seen his brother fall and responded the only way he knew how. Full transformation. The octopus bull emerged from the tailed beast cloak in its complete form. 100 feet of chakra-dense muscle and thrashing tentacles, the eight tails roaring through Beast's throat in a combined voice that shook the domain's golden walls. "Yo, you hurt my bro! Now you gotta go, go, go!" Brapped even in full-tailed beast form. Because that was who he was, and the tentacles swung down in a coordinated barrage that could crush a mountain range. Naruto rose to meet the eight tails at eye level, hovered there, small against the beast's mass, golden against its dark purple black. He raised both hands. Cursed technique, sunburst. The light erupted, upward, outward, filling the space between them with radiance that exceeded anything the natural world produced. The eight-tailed chakra cloak, immensely dense, the product of a perfect Jinchuriki in full synchronization, hit the light and began to boil away, layer by layer, tail by tail. The beast shrieked, both voices, Bee and the eight tails, in combined agony as their shared form was peeled apart by concentrated solar energy. The transformation collapsed. Bee fell, human again, chakra depleted, skin burned across every visible surface. Naruto caught him before he hit the ground, set him beside his brother. "A brave partnership," Naruto said. "I honor it." Two Jinchuriki. Down, Onoki attacked from above. The dust release formed between his hands, a cone of light that erased matter at the molecular level. The old Tsuchikage's greatest weapon, the technique that had ended wars, that could unmake anything within its geometry, regardless of defense or durability. Particle style, atomic dismantling jutsu. The cone descended on Naruto, a geometry of pure destruction, erasing the air itself as it passed through, leaving vacuum in its wake. The technique that unmade Naruto looked up at it, raised a hand. Cursed technique reversal, darkness. The void sphere appeared in his palm, the absence, the negation, the point where existence went to end. He held it up toward the descending dust release. The two techniques met. Onoki's particle style disintegrated matter. Naruto's darkness consumed energy, all energy, any energy, regardless of form or origin. The dust release hit the void and was swallowed, consumed, erased in the same way it erased others. The cone of light shrank as it approached the void sphere, shrinking, being eaten, its energy feeding the absence until the technique was simply gone. Onoki's hands hung empty. His face, ancient, weathered, having survived 3 wars, showed something he hadn't felt since facing the second Mizukage's genjutsu 50 years ago, raw, unprocessed disbelief. Naruto pointed the void sphere upward. A beam of darkness, the darkness compressed into a line, shot from his palm to the floating Tsuchikage. It hit the old man's hover technique and canceled it. Onoki's flight jutsu, the lightening of his own weight that allowed him to defy gravity, simply stopped working within the beam's influence. The Tsuchikage fell, 100 feet. Onoki, ancient body, brittle bones, plummeted toward the earth with the certainty of a stone. Naruto appeared beneath him, caught the old man in both hands with the gentleness of someone catching a falling bird. "You are too old for this, Tsuchikage-sama." Onoki looked up at the golden-eyed giant holding him like a child. His face worked through several expressions, fury, indignation, the pride of a man who had never needed saving. Then his eyes closed. "You're right," the old man muttered. "I am." His body went limp, not unconscious, just done. The fight leaving him in a single admission. Naruto set him on the ground beside A and B, straightened. Mei Terumi was next. The Mizukage was already in motion. Lava release flowing from her mouth in a river that melted the earth beneath it. Boil release steaming from her pores in an acidic cloud designed to dissolve anything it touched. A two-pronged assault from a Kage who specialized in offensive Kekkei Genkai. The lava reached Naruto first. It flowed around his feet, orange, viscous, 1500 degrees Celsius. and he stood in it the way a person stands in a warm bath. His sandals burned away. The skin of his feet and ankles glowed golden where the lava touched, cursed energy creating a barrier that made magma feel like heated sand. The acid cloud followed. It engulfed him, corrosive, designed to eat through iron, through flesh, through anything with molecular bonds it could attack. Naruto breathed it in, felt the burn in his lungs, minor, handled the reverse curse technique, purging the acid damage faster than it could accumulate. He walked through both techniques, forward, toward Mei. His feet left prints in the cooling lava behind him, and the acid cloud parted around his frame as he pushed through it with nothing but forward momentum and golden light. Mei saw him coming. She was brave, threw everything she had, both Kekkei Genkai at maximum output, her bodyguards launching supplementary jutsu from the flanks. It accomplished nothing. He walked through a volcano's worth of lava and a chemical weapon's worth of acid the way he walked through morning mist. His hand found her shoulder. A pulse of light, suppressive, targeted, hitting the exact nerve clusters that allowed her to mold chakra. Her jutsu died. The lava cooled. The acid dispersed. She stood there, powerless, his hand still on her shoulder, and looked up into golden eyes. "Your village has suffered enough, Mei-sama. Please yield." Her lips pressed together. Her guards were already down, collapsed from the domain's ambient pressure. Her village, still recovering, had bet everything on this alliance, and this alliance had just been dismantled in minutes. "Kiri yields," she said. Her voice was steady. Her eyes were wet, but her voice was steady. Naruto removed his hand, inclined his head, a bow, respectful. "Thank you." The last Kage still standing was Gaara. The Kazekage had not moved during the assault. He hovered on his platform of sand, the sand itself still functional within the domain because his primary defensive techniques were reactive rather than offensive, protective rather than violent. His shield of sand, his armor, his mother's will woven into every grain. He watched Naruto approach through the golden field where 100,000 shinobi stood or sat or lay. Disarmed, disabled, the fight taken from them by a domain that simply refused to allow it. Naruto stopped 20 feet from Gaara's floating form. They looked at each other, two Jinchuriki, two children who had been used and abandoned, two people who had found different answers to the same question. "Gaara-san." Naruto. The Kazekage's sand stirred. It rose around him, the automatic defense, the mother's love, shaping itself into shields and spears and the full arsenal of a Kage-level sand manipulator. "I asked my village to trust me," Gaara said. His voice was soft, young. He was 14, 2 years into a role he'd never been prepared for, leading a people who had tried to kill him for most of his life. "They trusted me. I told them we would fight to defend our sovereignty. I cannot betray that trust." "I understand. I know you do." Gaara's jade eyes were steady, sad, full of something that looked like grief worn in advance for what was about to happen. "You saved my life. You showed me that I was wanted. I carry those words in my chest every day. And I meant every one of them. Then you understand why I must fight, why the person you saved cannot simply bow, because bowing would mean the lesson you taught me, that I matter, that my choices matter, was a lie." Naruto was still for a long moment. The golden light in his eyes pulsed, warm, steady, and for one breath, something behind it looked like the old warmth. The real warmth, the kind that had caught a falling boy and said, "You are wanted." Then the breath passed. "Your fight was well fought, Gaara-san," Naruto said. The future tense was intentional. "It changes the outcome by exactly nothing." Gaara's sand erupted. The desert responded to its master's call. And this was the land of lightning, miles from any desert. But Gaara had brought his sand with him. Every grain he'd carried in his gourd, every particle he'd gathered from the earth on the march here, all of it, millions of tons compressed and shaped by the will of a Jinchuriki who had spent years refining his control. It rose in a wave, a tsunami of gold and brown that blotted out the sky, that turned the battlefield into a sandstorm with Naruto at its center. Sand coffin, sand burial, sand tsunami, the imperial sand funeral. Every technique Gaara had ever developed, every defensive and offensive application of his Kekkei Genkai launched simultaneously at the man who had saved his life. Naruto stood in the center of the storm. He let the sand come, let it wrap around him. Coffin forming, burial compressing, the weight of a desert pressing inward from every direction. The pressure was immense, real, enough to crush steel, enough to turn stone to powder, enough to bury a lesser being beyond recovery. He let Gaara have this. Let the boy throw everything he had, because the alternative was ending it before Gaara could feel that he tried. When the sand had closed completely, when Naruto stood at the center of a compression so total that light itself couldn't penetrate, he spoke. "Thank you for the fight, my friend." He expanded, golden light from within. From every pore, every inch of his body, outward, and the sand that had compressed around him was blown apart. Every grain, the coffin, the burial, the tsunami, all of it scattered in a sphere of radiance that turned the battlefield golden for a full second. The sand spread outward like a starburst, falling in a ring around the cleared space, and Naruto stood in the center untouched. Gaara's platform dissolved beneath him. The sand that composed it had been scattered with the rest, his mother's will broken, his defenses gone, his arsenal emptied. He fell the 6 feet to the earth and landed on his feet, crouching, and when he looked up at Naruto, his jade eyes were wide. "I have nothing left," the Kazekage said. Naruto walked toward him, each step heavy, even inevitable. He stopped in front of Gaara and looked down at the boy who had been his first true rescue, the child he'd caught from a collapsing-tailed beast, the Jinchuriki he'd shown peace. "Kneel, Gaara-san." Gaara looked up at him. His face was young. His eyes were wet. His hands at his sides trembled. "If I kneel, my people, your people will live. They will be protected. They will never again need to turn their children into weapons." Naruto's voice held warmth, real warmth, the remnant of what had been, offered one more time to one more person. "I am still the man who caught you. I am still the man who said you are wanted, but I am also the man who will never again trust the world to be kind on its own." Gaara's breath shook. He knelt, one knee first, then both. His head bowed, his hands pressed into the earth, and beside him, spread across the battlefield in every direction, 100,000 shinobi who had watched a boy bring 4 Kage to the ground found themselves following, one by one, then in clusters, then in waves. The army that had come to resist falling to its knees because the alternative had been demonstrated in the clearest possible terms. Naruto stood among them, the only one upright, the only one who had been upright the entire time. He looked across the field of kneeling bodies, across the Raikage's unconscious form, the 8 Tails host beside him, the ancient Tsuchikage still lying where he'd been set down, the Mizukage with her head bowed, the Kazekage on his knees with tears cutting lines through the sand on his face, and his golden eyes held steady. "Rise," he said, his voice carried. "All of you, rise and go home. Tell your villages what you saw. Tell them that the era of hidden villages is over. Tell them that the era of children as weapons is over. Tell them that peace has come, and that it will be enforced by the hand that just held your nation's finest to the earth." They rose, slowly, in silence, 100,000 shinobi standing in a field of pressed grass, looking at each other, looking at the golden figure at the center, and knowing, every single one of them, that the world they woke up in this morning would never exist again. The army dispersed. The Raikage was carried away by his guards, alive, furious, but alive. Killer Bee went with him. Onoki was helped to his feet and supported by his own bodyguards. The old man looked at Naruto once more before leaving and said nothing, said everything in the look. Mei gathered her forces and departed with the quiet dignity of a woman who had made a hard choice and committed to living with it. Gaara was the last to go. He stood, sand regathering around him slowly, his automatic defense rebuilding itself grain by grain. He looked at Naruto. "Will you come to Suna?" Gaara asked. His voice was raw. "When this is done, will you visit?" "Yes, as a conqueror, as a friend." Gaara's face did something complicated. His jade eyes held Naruto's golden ones for a long moment. Then he turned and walked away, toward his siblings, who stood at the edge of the battlefield, waiting with pale faces and shaking hands. Temari looked at Naruto as Gaara passed her. The fan on her back was still sealed. She hadn't drawn it, hadn't been able to. The domain had held her still, had kept her weapon sheathed, had made the choice for her. She looked at the golden-eyed giant who stood alone on a field where 100,000 people had just surrendered, and she felt something she couldn't name. Fear, yes. But something else too. Something that whispered at least it's someone who cares. The field emptied. Naruto stood alone. The grass around him was flat in a perfect circle. The weight of his domain's passage pressed into the earth like a footprint the size of a city. One figure remained at the edge of the field, Sasuke. The Uchiha stood a quarter-mile away, Sharingan blazing, hands at his sides. He had come with the alliance, had stood in their ranks, had intended to fight, and had been held still by the domain like everyone else, had knelt with everyone else when the Kage fell, had risen with everyone else when told, and had not left. Naruto turned to face him. The distance between them, a quarter-mile of pressed grass and scattered weapons, felt like nothing, like they were already at arm's reach, like they'd always been at arm's reach. Sasuke-san, you knew I was here. I always know where you are. Sasuke walked forward, slow steps, hands still at his sides. His Sharingan read everything, the ambient energy, the residual domain effects, the impossible density of the body ahead of him. Everything it read confirmed what he already knew. This was a fight he could never win. He stopped 10 feet away. Itachi died telling me the truth, Sasuke said, about the massacre, about Danzo, about the village that ordered our family killed. His voice was low, controlled. The old rage was there. It would always be there, but it had been reshaped by grief and truth into something different. You killed Danzo. You dismantled Root. You've done everything I wanted to do, taken everything I needed to take. I did not do it for you, Sasuke-san. I know. Sasuke's fists clenched, unclenched. That's what makes it worse. Are you going to fight me? The question hung between them. Naruto asked it the way he asked everything, evenly, respectfully, with the patience of someone who would accept either answer and act accordingly. Sasuke looked at him, at the golden eyes he'd stared at across training grounds and hospital rooms and the valley of the end, at the person who had carried him home on his shoulder and said always when he whispered thank you. His hand moved to his hip, to the sword he'd acquired, a straight blade, well made, the replacement for a weapon he'd never needed. His fingers touched the handle and stopped. If I fight you, Sasuke said, I die. Yes, and Itachi's sacrifice, everything he did to keep me alive, means nothing. I would not frame it that way, but the outcome would be the same. Sasuke's hand dropped from the sword, his Sharingan deactivated, the red fading to black, the Tomoe vanishing, leaving simple dark eyes and a pale face. He looked at Naruto with those plain eyes. No enhancement, no technique, just a young man looking at another young man who held the world in his fist. What do you need from me? Sasuke asked. Serve Konoha. Train the next generation. Rebuild the Uchiha name on a foundation that doesn't require massacre or revenge. Naruto's voice was warm, genuinely warm, the real warmth emerging for a moment. Live, Sasuke-san. That is what I need from you. Sasuke stood there for a long time. The wind moved between them. Then the Uchiha did something he had never done in his life. Something that cost him more than any fight, any technique, any sacrifice of blood or pride. He bowed, deep, formal, the way Naruto bowed, head below shoulders, one hand over the other, the bow of acknowledgement, of submission, of a rival who had reached the end of rivalry and found something beyond it. I'll serve, Sasuke said from the bow. His voice was rough. For now. That is enough. Sasuke straightened. His face was tight. His eyes were bright. But he was alive. And he would remain alive. And somewhere, in whatever came after death, Itachi Uchiha could finally rest. The Uchiha turned and walked away toward Konoha, toward the future that remained, toward a life defined by something other than hatred for the first time. Naruto watched him go. Then he turned his eyes upward, to the sky, to the world that now answered to him. In fact, if not yet in full recognition. 4 of 5 great nations had yielded. Kumo's Raikage was unconscious but unconquered in his own mind. That would need addressing. The smaller nations, the samurai territories, the scattered forces that hadn't been present, all of them would need to learn what had changed. But first, Konoha. He flew home. The village was waiting for him. Kakashi at the gate. Sakura beside him. The clan heads behind them. The population lining the streets, civilians and shinobi alike, watching the sky, watching for gold. He descended, landed at the gate with the same weightless grace he always had, straightened, looked at the faces arrayed before him. It is done, he said. Kakashi looked at him, at the golden eyes that held something new, something that lived beyond the warmth, beyond the hope, in a place where certainty had made its home and pulled up every root of doubt. All of them? Kakashi asked. The Raikage lives but fell, the Tsuchikage yielded, the Mizukage surrendered, the Kazekage knelt. A pause. 100,000 shinobi returned to their homes disarmed. Sasuke returns as well. The village was silent. 100 conversations held their breath. Then Sakura stepped forward. Her medical badge glinted in the afternoon sun. Her green eyes searched his face, looking for the person she knew, the teammate who'd smiled at her, the giant who'd said, "I am your teammate," with gentleness in the middle of a crisis. "Are you hurt?" she asked. "I am undamaged, Sakura-san." She nodded. Her lip trembled once, that familiar tremble, and then steadied. "Welcome home," she said. Naruto inclined his head, walked through the gate. The village parted around him the way water parts around the prow of a great ship, naturally, instinctively, with the recognition that what was passing through demanded space. He walked to the tower, climbed the stairs, sat in the chair, and for the first time in the history of the shinobi world, one man held every nation's compliance in his two hands, and the world was, for one breath, one afternoon, one fragile heartbeat of time, at peace. The peace lasted 3 weeks. The response came from beneath the earth, literally. The tunnel network that connected Orochimaru's old bases extended under 3 countries. The bases that the Sannin had abandoned after his retreat from Naruto years ago had been inherited, studied, repurposed, activated by a will that had been sleeping in sealed containers across the continent, waiting for precisely this scenario. The will of Madara Uchiha, the real Madara, the body that had been preserved through Hashirama's cells, through sealed coffins, through the kind of preparation that only a man who planned in centuries could manage. Obito had been the instrument, but the instrument's destruction had triggered the contingency. Somewhere in the network of bases, a seal released, a coffin opened, and a body that had been dead for decades drew its first breath through lungs made of stolen vitality. Naruto felt it at dawn. He was in the tower, reviewing the restructuring plans for the unified command structure he was building, when the energy signature hit his perception. It was enormous, ancient, carrying the weight of a man who had once fought Hashirama Senju to a standstill and walked away to scheme for 100 more years. He set his pen down. "That should be impossible," he said to the empty office. He rose, walked to the window, looked east, toward the border, toward the place where the signature was growing, gathering, pulling natural energy from the earth like a vacuum pulling air. Madara's signature blazed. And with it, from beneath the earth, from the same stolen network, the Gedo statue stirred. The container of the tailed beasts, the one Naruto had claimed, the one he'd left sealed in Amegakure's depths while he dealt with the living world, responded to its original master's call. Its energy flared. The seals Nagato had placed began to crack. Naruto left the window, left the tower, left the village at a speed that turned him into a line of gold stretched across the horizon. He arrived at the emergence point in 4 seconds. The landscape had changed. The forest that had stood here was gone, replaced by a crater where the sealed coffin had released its occupant with enough force to level everything in a mile radius. At the crater's center, a figure stood, Uchiha, in the flesh, and more than flesh. The Rinnegan blazed in both eyes, stolen from Nagato's lineage through mechanisms prepared decades in advance. The Hashirama face on his chest, grotesque, ancient, the price of longevity through cellular theft, pulsed with nature energy. His armor, the old Warring States era armor, red and black, sat on a frame that looked 30 despite being over a century old. And behind him, rising from the earth with a roar that shook the continent, the Gedo statue, seals cracking, the 7 captured tailed beast chakra streaming from its eyes and mouth like colored fire. The 10 tails husk responding to its original purpose, responding to the man who had set the plan in motion a lifetime ago. "Interesting," Madara said. His voice was deep, composed, carrying the absolute self-assurance of a man who had never encountered a problem he couldn't eventually overcome. His Rinnegan found Naruto in the air above. "You're the one who dismantled Obito's operation, the Golden Child." Madara Uchiha, Naruto descended, landed across from the ancient warrior. 40 feet separating them, the crater's edge beneath Naruto's feet. You should have stayed buried. I stayed buried until the world needed correction. Madara's eyes moved across Naruto's frame, assessing, analyzing, the legendary tactical mind processing everything it saw. You've conquered the 5 nations, impressive for someone so young, but you've built on a foundation that requires your constant presence. Remove you, and it collapses. Is that your intent? To remove me? Madara smiled. It was thin, cold, carrying the amusement of a man who had fought gods and found them wanting. I intend to complete what I started. The moon's eye plan, the infinite Tsukuyomi, the world under a blanket of dreams where suffering ends because nothing is real. His hands formed a seal. Behind him, the Geto statue's mouth opened wider, the chakra streaming out in greater volume, converging, beginning to take shape. You've gathered the pieces for me, boy, the statue, the beasts, the world brought to heel. All I needed was the final piece, and you've provided it by removing every obstacle between me and my goal. The tail beast chakra converged above the statue, merging, combining. The first signs of the Ten Tails Reformation, a singular entity of primal power, the original source of all chakra, beginning to reassemble from the pieces Akatsuki had spent years collecting. Naruto watched this happen, felt the energy levels climbing, past anything the individual tailed beast had represented, past Shukaku, past the 9 tails, approaching something that exceeded all of them combined. He was unimpressed. Your plan requires you to survive long enough to complete it, Naruto said. Allow me to demonstrate why that assumption is flawed. He moved first. The golden streak crossed the distance between them in 0 time, a flash that existed only as aftermath, only as the wind that followed where speed had been. His fist drove toward Madara's face with enough force behind it to crack a continental shelf. Madara's Rinnegan tracked it. Barely. The ancient Uchiha's body moved on reflexes owned across a century of warfare. Hashirama cells flooding his system with regeneration, Rinnegan powers activating in sequence. Pretapath absorption sprang up on his left arm, a shield of chakra absorption meant to drain whatever energy Naruto's fist carried. The fist hit the absorption shield and went through it. Cursed energy, separate from chakra, operating on principles the Rinnegan had never evolved to perceive, passed through the Pretapath's technique, the way light passes through smoke. The shield absorbed nothing. The fist connected with Madara's jaw. The impact was the sound of continents shifting. Madara's head snapped back. His body followed, launching from the crater's center at a speed that would have killed a normal person through deceleration alone. He cratered the far ridge, embedding in stone that shattered in waves around the impact point. Naruto was already there. He stood above the Madara-shaped hole in the cliff face and looked down at the ancient warrior pulling himself free. Jaw already healed, Hashirama cells knitting bone in real time, Rinnegan still blazing. You hit harder than Hashirama, Madara said. Blood on his teeth, a grin forming beneath it. The grin of a man who had just found a real fight for the first time in decades. Wonderful. He erupted from the cliff. Susanoo formed around him, the perfect form, the armored titan, 100 feet of ethereal warrior wielding blades of compressed spiritual energy. The blue-violet construct towered over the landscape, its multiple arms drawing back for a strike that could bisect a mountain. Naruto floated at the Susanoo's eye level, small against its mass, unimpressed by its scale. Pretty, he said. The Susanoo swung, a blade the size of a building, driven by the chakra of a man who had fought the god of shinobi to a standstill. It screamed through the air, displacing weather, creating thunder, reshaping the geography below through sheer displaced pressure. Naruto caught it, one hand, extended, palm flat against the ethereal blade's edge. The impact created a shockwave that leveled the surrounding terrain for 2 miles in every direction. Trees gone, hills flattened, the very earth pushed outward in a ring. The Susanoo's blade pressed against his palm and went nowhere. His fingers closed on the ethereal material. Pulled, the blade ripped free of the Susanoo's grip. Naruto held it, a weapon the size of an apartment building, weighing nothing in his hand, its spiritual energy already beginning to dissipate from contact with his cursed energy. He looked at it, then at Madara, encased in his Susanoo, Rinnegan wide. I believe these belong to us. He threw the blade back. It hit the Susanoo like a battering ram hitting a wall, and the wall lost. The ethereal armor cracked, splintered, the blade punching through its own construct's chest and continuing through Madara's torso behind it. The Susanoo collapsed in a cascade of dissipating chakra, and Madara fell from its disintegrating shell with a hole through his midsection that showed daylight on the other side. He was already healing. Hashirama cells in overdrive, the wound closing from the edges inward, tissue regrowing at visible speed. The Rinnegan user landed on the cratered earth and immediately formed hand seals. Chibaku Tensei! The gravitational core launched upward, a black sphere that pulled everything toward it. Earth rose. Boulders the size of houses ripped free of the ground. The air itself compressed toward the point, gravity bending in a sphere that grew and grew as more mass was drawn in. Madara was building a miniature moon, a prison of compressed earth designed to entomb Naruto under billions of tons of planetary material. The debris converged on Naruto's position. Layer after layer, the improvised planetoid growing around him, swallowing him, burying him, pressing inward with gravitational force that could compress iron into diamond. Inside the growing sphere, surrounded by closing darkness and crushing weight, Naruto stood unmoving. The stone pressed against his body and found something harder. The gravity pulled at his frame and found something heavier. He spoke 2 words. Cursed technique reversal. Darkness. The void expanded. From the center of the Chibaku Tensei, from the point where Naruto stood, the absence bloomed outward. The void sphere consumed mass, consumed gravity, consumed the technique itself, eating the gravitational core that held the planetoid together, eating the cohesion that kept a billion tons of Earth in one shape. Without its core, without its physics, the Chibaku Tensei came apart, not in an explosion, in a dissolution. Matter simply ceased, consumed by the void, erased from existence. A billion tons of compressed Earth disappeared in 3 seconds. Naruto hovered in the open sky where a moon had been. The void sphere dissolved from his palm. His golden eyes found Madara on the ground below. The ancient Uchiha's face had changed. The grin was gone. In its place, something that Naruto recognized from Orochimaru's face in the Forest of Death, from the Raikage's eyes, from every person who had ever tested their strength against his and found the gap, understanding. The kind that comes with a physical chill. "What are you?" Madara breathed. "I am Naruto Uzumaki," he said from the sky, "and you are an old man chasing a dead dream." Behind Madara, the Gedo statue completed its transformation. The 10 tails emerged, the original, the progenitor, the creature of legend. Its body was amorphous, massive beyond comprehension. 100 arms, a single eye, a tail that split into 10, a mouth that held nothing behind it but hunger and the memory of being whole. It rose above the landscape like a living catastrophe, its mere presence warping the weather for 100 miles, its chakra output registering on every sensor in every nation simultaneously. Madara leaped to its head. The ancient Uchiha merged with the beast, Jinchuriki absorption, the Rinnegan's ability to bind tailed beasts to host, taking in the power of all 7 captured tailed beasts plus the statue's own reserve. His body swelled, transformed, became something between human and divine. The 10 tails Jinchuriki, the closest thing to the sage of 6 paths the world had seen in 1,000 years. His power was godlike. His chakra reserves were infinite. His Rinnegan evolved, a 3rd eye opening on his forehead, the Rinne Sharingan, the technique that could cast the infinite Tsukuyomi across the moon itself. He rose above the 10 tails' thrashing body and looked at Naruto across the sky. 2 beings, each one claiming the right to reshape the world. Each one possessing power that exceeded anything the shinobi system had ever produced. The difference was the gap. Madara Uchiha, at the peak of his power, 10 tails absorbed, Rinne Sharingan awakened, the full might of the sage's legacy concentrated into a single frame, was the strongest shinobi to ever live. He was still below Sukuna, and Naruto was above. "Now," Madara said. His voice echoed, tripled. The 10 tails rumbled beneath it, the weight of divine power behind every syllable. "Now we see if your golden light can." Naruto attacked. He crossed the distance with a speed that existed outside the concept of speed, that belonged to a framework the shinobi world had never conceived of, that operated on the physics of a different reality where energy was denser, where power was measured in scales that made tailed beast chakra look like candle flame. His fist hit Madara's divine form torso, and the sound it produced had physical weight. A shockwave that split the Ten Tails in half, that separated the beast's upper body from its lower body through sheer transmitted force, that sent the divided creature crashing to Earth in two separate impacts that could be seen from space. Madara, his divine body cracked across the chest, Hashirama cells and Ten Tails chakra rebuilding him in real time, stared at the damage, at the impossible physics of a single punch bisecting the Ten Tails, at the golden eyes in front of him that showed absolutely nothing resembling effort. "You?" Naruto hit him again. A straight palm, not a fist, an open palm pressed against Madara's face. The sunburst technique detonated from the point of contact. Light erupted through Madara's skull, entering through the palm's contact point, exiting through the back, carrying with it the Rinne Sharingan's nascent third eye and the brain tissue that had housed it. Madara's Rinne Sharingan died before it could activate. The eye, the one that would have cast the infinite Tsukuyomi, was burned from existence by concentrated solar energy at point-blank range. The Ten Tails Jinchuriki went limp in the air. His eyes, the two Rinnegan remaining, went wide and then unfocused. The Ten Tails beneath him thrashed, trying to reform, its halves reaching toward each other with amorphous limbs. Naruto looked down at the beast, looked at Madara, dying, again, a century of planning reduced to ash in moments. Looked at the sky above them, where the sun was climbing toward noon. He had one technique remaining that he had never used in this world. The final inheritance, the legacy of Dabura Karaba. The technique that had earned the Deskunte champion his legend, the one that even Sukuna had acknowledged with a nod across a field of burning cities. The technique that existed in the space between what was possible and what should have been. The Ten Tails was reforming, drawing itself together. Its chakra was infinite in practice. The beast could regenerate endlessly, reform endlessly, exist endlessly so long as its core survived. Madara was dying, but the Ten Tails would persist without a host. It would rampage. It would destroy. It would become the very catastrophe that justified the shinobi system's worst excesses unless he ended it permanently. Naruto released Madara's body, let the ancient Uchiha fall, dead before he hit the ground. The greatest shinobi in history ended without ceremony, without final words, without anything to mark the passage except the golden light in his killer's eyes. He turned to face the reforming Ten Tails. The beast was drawing together, screaming in a voice that existed below sound, its single eye reforming in its misshapen head. It was the origin of all chakra, the source, the progenitor from which every technique, every Kekkei Genkai, every shinobi ability descended. It looked at him and roared. Naruto brought his hands together, palms touching, fingers interlaced. The same gesture that began his domain, but different now, deeper. The hands pressing harder, the energy flowing through pathways that had never been opened in this life, channels that belonged to Dabura Karaba's original body, replicated here in flesh that had been building toward this moment since the day it was born. Golden light erupted from his frame, but it was different. Brighter and darker at the same time, containing both states, both polarities. The sunburst light and the darkness's void, existing simultaneously within the same technique, occupying the same space without contradiction, because Dabura Karaba had learned, across a lifetime of warfare against the strongest creatures ever born, that the highest expression of power was the reconciliation of opposites, light that consumed and void that created. Brightness that ended and darkness that began. Two halves of the same absolute pressed together until the boundary between them ceased to exist. Otherworld between darkness and light, Naruto said. His voice resonated, doubled, tripled, carrying the echo of a past life's accumulated wisdom into a technique that rewrote the rules of reality wherever it touched. The Ten Tails charged, every tail lashing forward, every arm reaching the full magnitude of the original tailed beast's fury directed at the golden and void figure suspended in the sky. Reverse transcendence. Reality folded. The technique did not expand outward the way the domain did. It did not fill space or impose rules or create boundaries. Instead, it folded reality inward, pulling the world toward a single point, compressing the distance between Naruto and everything around him until the concept of distance became meaningless. The Ten Tails, charging forward at full speed, found that the space it was crossing had collapsed, that every step brought it further away rather than closer, that the ground beneath its many feet was running backward, that the sky above was tilting, that reality itself had become a funnel pointed at the figure at its center. Reverse transcendence. The technique that inverted the relationship between the wielder and the world. Within its influence, Naruto was not in the world was in him. The space, the energy, the matter, the time, all of it drawn inward, compressed, made to answer to a single will. The Ten Tails entered the technique's influence and began to shrink, its 100 arms folded inward, compressed, reduced, drawn toward the central point where Naruto stood. Its 10 tails curled and contracted. Its mass, enough to reshape continents, diminished. The creature's roar descended in pitch as its body descended in scale, because sound, too, obeyed the reverse transcendence. Because everything obeyed it, the beast that had been 100 feet tall became 80, 60, 40, 20. Its chakra, infinite, the source of all spiritual and physical energy in the shinobi world, was being compressed, eaten, drawn into the void light spiral at the technique's core and transmuted into something else entirely. 5 feet, 3 feet, 1, the 10 tails, the original tailed beast. The creature whose power had birthed an entire civilization of warriors became a sphere. A single sphere, the size of a human fist, glowing with compressed energy in every color of the spectrum. It hung in the air in front of Naruto's interlaced hands, pulsing, alive, contained, a world's worth of chakra. Compressed into something he could hold in one palm, the reverse transcendence released. Reality unfolded, snapping back to its normal geometry, the landscape reasserting itself, the sky returning to its proper orientation. The compression zone dissolved, leaving behind a crater miles wide and inches deep. The earth pressed flat by forces that had briefly turned geography into suggestion. Naruto opened his hands. The sphere of compressed tailed beast chakra floated between his palms, warm, pulsing, containing the spiritual ancestry of every shinobi technique ever developed. He looked at it. Then he closed his hands around it, drew it into his body, into the cursed energy system that ran alongside his chakra network, absorbing it into the parallel architecture that had always existed outside this world's rules. The sphere entered him and dissolved. Its infinite energy dispersed through channels designed to handle infinite inputs. Spread across a system that existed for precisely this purpose, he felt it integrate. Felt the tailed beast chakra become part of him, supplementary, additive, a new fuel source, feeding into an engine that was already running beyond any measurable ceiling. The sky was clear. The crater was empty. Madara's body lay at its edge, small, mortal, already beginning the process of decomposition. The 10 tails was gone. Every tailed beast within it, the 7 stored in the statue, their combined essence, was gone, absorbed, contained within the only vessel in the world capable of holding them. Naruto hovered above the crater and looked at the world spread below him. The nations, the villages, the people, 100,000 who had knelt, millions more who would learn what happened here and have to decide what it meant. He descended, touched ground. The earth accepted his weight, heavier now, denser, the tailed beast energy, making him something beyond anything that had ever walked this planet's surface. He turned west, toward home. Please excuse me, he thought. I must be heading home. The world fell into shape over the following months. The unified command structure took form, one governing authority, one military, one set of laws applied equally across what had been 5 separate nations. Naruto governed from Konoha, the village becoming the capital of a world that had been forced to remember it was one world rather than 5, one people rather than rival factions. He was fair. That was the truth of it, a truth that made his conquest harder to hate than it should have been. The laws he wrote protected civilians. The military he built served defensively. The Jinchuriki program was abolished. Every sealed individual freed from their obligation, their beasts either released or, in the case of the 7 he'd absorbed, simply gone from the world. Killer Bee kept the 8 tails by choice, a partnership, a friendship, something Naruto would never interfere with. The 9 tails within his own seal remained. He would address it when the time was right. The former Kage served as regional governors, those who survived. Gaara governed Suna under Naruto's authority. and the letters between them were frequent, warm on Gaara's end, measured on Naruto's. Mei rebuilt Kiri with resources that had never been available under the old system, funding from a central treasury rather than mission income that fluctuated with war demand. Onoki retired formally, and his granddaughter Kurotsuchi took his place. The Raikage refused the position, remained defiant, alive because Naruto had chosen to leave him alive, but unbowed in spirit. He was confined to Kumogakure's boundaries under guard. His brother visited weekly and reported each time that A spent his days training and muttering about rematch. Naruto allowed this. A man needed something to hold on to. Kakashi served as Naruto's right hand, the operational mind, the implementer, the one who translated Naruto's broad directives into actionable logistics. If the silver-haired Jonin struggled with the arrangement, he hid it behind his book and his mask and the dry humor that hadn't changed. "You know," Kakashi said one morning, leaning in the office doorway, "when I took you as a student, I thought the hardest part would be teaching you tree climbing. And instead you conquered the world and I'm doing paperwork. I appreciate your service, Kakashi-sensei. I know, buy me dinner sometime." Sakura ran the medical division, restructured, expanded. Civilian hospitals built across all 5 former nations with staff trained under her protocols. She saw Naruto daily for briefings, and their conversations were professional, efficient, tinged with the ghost of something warmer that she chose to offer, and he chose to accept without comment. She never asked again if he was still him. The answer was evident in everything he did. The courtesy, the composure, the flakjack he still wore, custom fitted now, finally. The way he still said good morning to Tochi at Ichiraku's on the rare occasions he visited. He was still him. He was also something more than him. Both things existed simultaneously, and she had made her peace with that. Iruka came to the tower once. He climbed the stairs, the same stairs Naruto had climbed the night of the turn, and knocked on the door, was admitted, stood in the office and looked at the boy who had been his student, enormous, golden-eyed, sitting behind a desk that governed 5 nations. "You missed ramen night," Iruka said. Naruto looked at his first teacher, at the man who had been his first connection to another human being, at the Chunin who had shared his own lunch with a hungry orphan and said you earned it when a headband was placed on that child's forehead. "I apologize, Iruka-sensei. You conquered the world, Naruto. Yes. People died. Yes." Iruka stood there. His hands were at his sides. He wore no weapons, had removed his kunai pouch before entering, had come as a teacher rather than a shinobi. His eyes were wet. His mouth was set. "Was there another way?" he asked. Naruto considered this, the way he considered everything, with a slight tilt of his head and a silence that held respect for the weight of the question. "I believed for 12 years that there was," he said. "I was shown otherwise. The system that raised me, that raised Gaara, that raised Sasuke, that raised every Jinchuriki ever sealed, could not be reformed from within. Every attempt at reform was met with assassination committees and sealed control mechanisms, and the assumption that kindness was a prelude to compliance. So I stopped being kind in the way they could afford to ignore. I remain kind in the way that matters. The people under my protection are safe. Every child born from this day forward will never know what it means to be sealed against their will, or trained into a weapon before they can speak, or hated for something placed inside them by adults who knew better." Iruka was silent. Tears tracked down his scarred face, the scar he'd earned defending Naruto as a child, the permanent mark of a love that had cost him blood. "I don't know if this is right," Iruka whispered. I don't know if I can be proud of you for this." "That is your right, Iruka-sensei, but I won't fight you. I never imagined you would." Iruka wiped his face, straightened his spine, looked at the golden-eyed sovereign behind the desk, and somewhere, beneath the grief and the confusion and the weight of watching a child you love become something you couldn't fully comprehend, he saw it. The 8-year-old at the ramen stand with his feet not touching the ground. The academy student who struggled with transformation jutsu. The boy who had beamed with pure joy when a headband was placed on his forehead. Still there. Buried, but still there. "Can we still do ramen?" Iruka asked. His voice cracked. Naruto smiled. It was small, private, Warm in a way that nothing else in his public life was warm anymore, a remnant of the boy he'd been, offered to the one person who had earned it without reservation. Thursday nights, Naruto said, I will make time. Iruka nodded, turned, walked to the door. His hand rested on the frame, the same place the third's hand had rested the night the old man walked out. Naruto? Yes, Iruka-sensei. 8 bone these days. I've been training. A wet laugh. Small. Real. 10 it is. He left. Naruto sat alone in the office. The world spread below him, governed, protected his. The sun came through the window and landed on his face, and he turned toward it the way he always had. Eyes closed, chin lifted, letting the warmth touch his skin, sunlight. The simplest pleasure. The one thing that had belonged to him before anything else, before power, before legacy, before the memories of a warrior from another world settled into his bones and showed him what strength could be. He opened his eyes. Gold met gold, his irises catching the sun's light and reflecting it back. Twin stars in a face that had been carved by conflict and courtesy into something that would live in history books for as long as history was written. The world didn't need saving. It needed a hand on the wheel. And the hand was there now, steady, golden, pressing down with the gentle weight of something that could never be moved. Below, in the streets of the village that had raised him and rejected him, and grudgingly accepted him and finally bowed to him, life continued. Children ran between market stalls. Shopkeepers called their wares. A woman with flour on her apron, the same woman who had pressed mochi into his hands years ago, the same woman who had stood in an alley with a mob when he was 7, walked past the tower, looked up at the window where she knew he sat, and bowed. He could see her from the window. He inclined his head in return, though she couldn't see it. Every interaction a formality now. Every courtesy a statement of dominion rather than connection. Every please and thank you wrapped around a truth that no longer needed speaking. This is mine and I am keeping it, and you will be safe whether you want to be or whether you do not. That was what sovereignty meant. That was what Dabura Karaba had always been in every life. The one who stood at the center and said, "The world turns and I am its axis." He sat in his chair. The evening light turned the office gold. The papers on his desk detailed the next day's schedule, meetings with regional governors, infrastructure approvals, the ongoing project of building a world that worked the way he demanded it work. Tomorrow there would be duties, responsibilities. The weight of a world on shoulders broad enough to carry it without bending. Tonight there was silence and sunlight and the knowledge, certain, final, immovable, that he had built this. Every piece of it. From a barefoot boy in an alley to the man who held nations in his palm and asked nothing in return except obedience and the safety of every person drawing breath under his sky. The last light of day touched the carved faces on the monument behind the tower. Hashirama, Tobirama, Hiruzen, Minato. Faces of men who had led this village before him. Men who had done their best within a system that was broken before they took their oaths. His face would be carved there too, eventually. The artisans had already been commissioned. It would take months. The scale of it alone, matching his frame's proportions, would require extensive scaffolding. He did not think about this. He thought about nothing except the warmth on his face and the silence of an evening in a world that was, for the first time in its history, held entirely within one will. Somewhere in Suna, Gaara was putting his siblings to bed. Something he'd started doing after the surrender. A ritual of normalcy, of family, of the life Naruto had once told him he was allowed to have. Somewhere in Konoha, Sasuke was training alone in a field at dusk, his sword cutting air, his movements growing faster each day, with a purpose that had been stripped of revenge and refilled with something he hadn't named yet. Somewhere in a hospital ward, the Raikage was doing push-ups with one arm, the other still damaged, still weak from the day a golden-eyed boy caught his full-force punch and ended his invincibility in a single gesture. Somewhere in a safe house in Rain, Conan was folding paper flowers and placing them on a grave that held nothing except memory and the weight of a friendship that had outlived every person in it except her. Somewhere in the world, people were afraid of him. People were grateful to him. People were both, simultaneously, holding fear and relief in the same breath, the way you hold a blade by its handle. Careful, aware, knowing that the thing protecting you is the same thing that could end you. That was fine. That was correct. That was the relationship between a sovereign and his people, the implicit understanding that safety was guaranteed by the same hand that demanded compliance. That kindness and authority lived in the same body and always would. Naruto closed his eyes. The golden light dimmed to its resting state, barely there, a soft warmth behind closed lids. His breathing was even. His hands were open on the desk. His body, massive, dense, carrying within it the absorbed essence of seven-tailed beasts and the soul of a warrior from another world's legends, was at rest. The world turned beneath him, governed, protected, his, and if somewhere, in the deepest chamber of his mind, the place where a fox still slept behind gates and a boy's memory still held the sound of an old teacher saying you earned it, if somewhere in that place a voice whispered, was this the only way? He did not answer. The answer was written in everything he'd built, in the peace that held, in the children who would grow up free, in the graves that would never again be filled with jinchuriki cut open for their contents. The answer was golden light on a still face, and a world that turned in silence under the hand of the one person strong enough to hold it steady. The answer was Naruto Uzumaki, Dabura Karaba reborn, sovereign of a world that had learned, too late and too well, that the gentle voice with the polite words and the formal bows was never an invitation. It was a warning. It was always a warning. You may proceed through me if you can. The office darkened. The sun set. The village settled into evening, quiet, safe, ruled. And at the center of it all, a golden-eyed king sat in a chair that groaned beneath his weight, and the world held its breath around him, and nothing moved without his knowledge, and nothing threatened without his answer. The era of shinobi was over. The era of Naruto Uzumaki had begun, and it would last.
God damn, what a complete movie. Naruto went from hated kid to the ultimate sovereign who fixed the whole broken shinobi world with golden fists and zero tolerance for bullshit. Thanks for watching this absolute banger. Smash subscribe for more wild what-ifs, turn on notifications, and drop your favorite moment below. Peace out.